very quick laps from Trulli, and he's going to go comfortably fastest.
Monaco maestro Jarno Trulli hits the right note again in qualifying. He's determined not to be a one-hit wonder. Takuma Sato gave Michael Schumacher the elbow in Monte Carlo. A week on, they start side by side.
It isn't going to be pole, but is it front row? Yes, it is. He's done it.
But it's the world #1 who leads that 180-mile-an-hour charge to the first corner.
Michael Schumacher will go fastest.
Pole number 60 then for Michael Schumacher.
He's back on home soil and focused on showing he is the boss. Welcome to the Nurburgring for the 7th race of F1 2004, the European Grand Prix. Welcome to the paddock. Hello there. We being a bit greedy, hoping for a repeat of last weekend's magnificent Monaco Grand Prix. Probably so, but at least there's some light at the end of the tunnel for Michael Schumacher's challengers. 5 wins, then a 0-0 in Monte Carlo. Still a 12-point margin between the 6-times champion and teammate Barrichello. Very close between Button and Trulli for third. Montoya, he's been pretty moody here all weekend. Alonso blames Ralf Schumacher for ending his race in Monaco. Sato's BAR on the front row. And Sato, the first Japanese driver ever to start a Grand Prix from there. Tony Jardine with me. A lot of attention on Jarno Trulli. Poor chap, he's lost his voice, but Craig, he can still drive a bit.
He can. He's using his hands and his feet very well indeed. But he was second here in 1999 at this circuit, and that was his best ever until Monte Carlo and that great win. But he has to prove that he's not just a great qualifier, he is a consistent racer. The extraordinary thing is that Flavio Briatore, the Renault Formula One boss, has not yet conceded to give him a seat to next year. He said he hasn't done quite enough yet. He has to prove it to us. He's showing a clean pair of heels to Fernando Alonso. He got a great, there's Alonso looking out. He thought, well, that's a great time for my teammate. He's really, I think, turned the corner.
We watch out for both Renaults at the start. We saw that great battle in Monte Carlo. Jenson Button following him home at Jarno Trulli. It didn't go Button's way, particularly in qualifying, though.
No, but yesterday morning in the first 2 sessions, he looked effortless. He looked very smooth, as he does. And there's David Richards, the team principal, looking on the aerodynamic developments. He was shaking his head because there was a slight mistake from Jenson there on the curbs, lost a couple of tenths. He's lost grip all weekend, he said. A bit of a mystery for the team and for Jenson Button, but I'm sure he'll race very well.
And Ferrari have pulled out all the stops to put Michael Schumacher on pole here.
Listen, Jim, Michael Schumacher is really, really upset about Monte Carlo. He was embarrassed. He came out of the tunnel on 3 wheels. All the sirens went off on the boats. They cheered in the press office. He is determined to rub everybody's nose in the red Ferrari dirt here. And this scintillating lap really got the fans going. A tremendous pole position.
Not sure how much fuel he had on board, over 2 seconds quicker than Raikkonen's pole here last year. And Taku is there. Possible mayhem up front.
Well, it could be a great start from Takuma Sato. He nudged, in fact, elbowed our friend Michael Schumacher out of the way at Monte Carlo. Some claimed he jumped the start. But you've got to remember that Michael Schumacher had already set this lap, and Ferrari even cheered him then. And he knew that Schumacher had set this scintillating time, and he still went out and put a lovely lap together.
Both BARs on the first 3 rows. Big day for Honda. It was 40 years ago that they made their F1 debut here at the Nürburgring. Let's have a word with the BAR boss, David Richards.
Yes, Jim, and David, that relationship with Honda's coming along very nicely now, very powerful.
No, it's a very strong relationship now. We've been working at it for some little time now, and you can see the fruits of it now as the team gels together, the 2 organisations really working as one unit.
When Honda see the progress that you've made with the car, do they tend to put more effort and more finances into the engine and the team as a whole?
Well, I don't think they could, because they're making enormous efforts already on the engine side, and it's like the acceleration and the sort of progress in this area is faster than the space race used to be. You know, the Russians versus the Americans. They're frantically working on the engines back in Japan, but they also have engineers working with us in England, integrated within our organisation, cooperating with our engineers.
Very briefly, do you fancy Taku for his first podium here today?
It would be a great day to have him on the podium today. He deserves it, that's for sure.
Have a good race.
Thank you.
He deserves it. It is an instant rematch between Takuma Sato and Michael Schumacher. Some very unusual characters down the back of the grid as well. Tony's got all the details.
How about this for a potentially explosive front row? Michael Schumacher on pole for his home Grand Prix, and alongside him with his and Japan's best ever grid slot, Takuma Sato second. I wonder if he'll elbow Michael out of the way, just like he did in Monte Carlo. And third with a great view, truly. Fourth, the resurgent Raikkonen's McLaren. Fifth, Button after a loss of grip. And sixth for Alonso's Renault. Barrichello's Ferrari 7th, his worst in 13 starts. 8th and 9th, Juan Pablo Montoya and Ralf Schumacher off the pace. Panis and D'Amato 10th and 11th. Klean's Jaguar 12th, 13th Heidfeld. Jordan's best grid this year. Webber after a 1 second penalty 14th. 15th Pantano, 16th Massa. And at the back, 4 drivers suffering engine change penalties. Baumgartner, DC, Fisichella and Bruni. Coulthard, his worst ever official qualifying position, 18th.
We reckon David Coulthard might just move up a spot to 17th. All season, though, we've been unhappy with the qualifying procedure. It is going to change, and it's going to be some shake-up as well. There's going to be 2 25-minute sessions, no fuel restrictions. The times will be added up to decide the grid positions for the Grand Prix. And crucially, the cars will be allowed to refuel and to change tyres on the Sunday before the race. And we expect these proposals to be ratified next month and to be in place for the British Grand Prix. That is on July the 11th. No matter, though, how they tinker with qualifying, it is the race itself that really matters. There will be no complaints if we get a repeat of that Monaco extravaganza.
The real reason Michael was so angry at retiring at Monaco was that Ferrari were hatching an audacious strategy to try and win the race. When the safety car came in, Michael would have had 17 laps in which he was going to try and build an 18-second cushion over Jarno Trulli. That would have given him just enough time to make a final pit stop and still come out ahead.
At least it gave us a chance, and sitting behind Jarno was not going to give us any chance at all. So, you know, when you start to push, we would have to push, Jarno would have to push, maybe something happened.
He must have broken his helmet, chucking it against the back of the pit wall.
I think he was angry because we'd been talking about what he had to do. And so he knew what he had to do, and he was taking a deep breath and getting ready to do it. So it was very frustrating.
It's a day off for Ricardo Zonta. It's a frantic time, though, with the first back-to-back races of the season. And there's a vast contrast between the Côte d'Azur and the Eifel Mountains of rural western Germany. The modern Nurburgring, just over 3 miles round. We're about an hour's drive from Kirpen, where Michael Schumacher grew up. He's won here 3 times, and now's your chance to experience the lap that puts him on pole this afternoon.
Let's see Michael Schumacher's pole position lap. Paddock talk was his tyres are very durable for the race, but a bit too hard for qualifying. Let's see how it works out as he heads down to turn 1, the big braking zone, then the hairpin, and so far, absolutely ordinary. Missed the apex there, tyres not up to temperature. See if he can find some grip as he goes to the long turn 2, into the tightening 3. The new section of the track opened up last year. 4 then, there's an apron on the outside you have to use. 4 wheels off the racetrack, bring it to the right-hand side for the forward curve. Now it's really hooking up well. It keeps low for the right-hander. Don't know why they don't all do that. It's always been much more grippier in there. Accelerating nicely downhill towards the Dunlop curve. Now the car appears to be working really well. Balance is neutral, nose goes in well. He's on the throttle early. No apparent oversteer on power. Michael's right hand adjusting the brake balance, the 160 mile an hour fast chicane you're going through, absolutely full throttle. Now over to the right hand side with a bumpy braking zone to turn 10. Stamps on the throttle pedal, brings it to the left for the bit curve. He's faster through there than anybody else in the world and always has been. Another tweak of the brake balance with his right hand because he's got a big stop ahead of him into the Fidol chicane. You must not brake too late, but you can give away 2/10 if it's too early. Takes the curbs brilliantly. Some power oversteer on the exit, corrects that nicely. The final turn, Coca-Cola launches the car in and the nose turns in beautifully for the second part. Start-finish line ahead, bang, pole position. Annoyingly for him, he could have carried another 4 laps worth of fuel and still been on pole.
Toyota are the only team to score with both cars in Monaco. Reading up, that puts them 7th in the constructors. McLaren only 5 points. Enough said. Sauber have 7, then Williams and BAR scrapping it out for 3rd. Renault looking comfy in 2nd, and Ferrari simply a class apart. It's worth a reminder, though, Ferrari spent a long time on the outside looking in before their current dominant era. Things change very quickly in this sport. Take Jordan, for example. Nick Heidfeld picked up their first points of the season last weekend. 5 years ago, though, here, Heinz-Harald Frentzen was on pole. Jordan were in the hunt for the World Championship itself. Frentzen led the European Grand Prix for over 30 laps, then dropped out. Same boss, but different times now. Let's link up with Eddie Jordan.
Very different times, Jim. Eddie, we've just been looking at some pictures of Heinz-Harald Frentzen leading the race here a few years ago. You won 2 races that year. That must seem like a lifetime ago.
Oh, there's some good memories, I suppose. And I think, you know, with the way that the sport is going and that we are really taking notice about costs and we want to get back to racing, and it can only be good for Jordan that we do and are more mindful of what the costs are. And if we can get that back to a more even playing field, I think it'll be certainly better for us and we can get back to try and win some races again.
May not have won races, but you did at least get some points in Monaco. That was a good event for you.
Well, Monaco was a bit of a turnaround. We've been looking for every race. We've had ever so slight little improvements all the way through, and Monaco getting the points was a dream. We're further up the grid, we're 13th here. This is a big improvement again. And if we can keep even small increments are so important at this stage for us to get up with the big boys.
Have a good one, EJ.
Thank you.
And on the track, Olivier Panis will start 10th, Cristiano D'Amata 11th. Just under 20 minutes to go to the start of the race, and the temperature 20 degrees. It has clouded over in the last few minutes, though. How will the European Grand Prix pan out? Let's get the views of our commentators, James Allen and Martin Brundle.
Well, there's 3 very interesting storylines for me going into today's Grand Prix. First of all, let's take a look at Takuma Sato, second on the grid. Terrific effort from him, but he's gone backwards in Grand Prix this year, particularly in Spain. It's a big pressure on him today to deliver on that second-place grid slot, isn't there?
Yeah, he's got a great chance of beating Michael Schumacher down to the first corner, but he mustn't jump the start as he did in Monaco. But it's right to say that we've not seen a race pace from him that matches his single lap ability at the moment.
Now, Jenson Button, in contrast, seems to be having a few problems with qualifying. Spain, and again here, an open goal for pole position and wasn't able to take it. What do you think's going on there?
There's always a reason for everything, and I'm sure Jenson's analysing why he's not delivering fully in that important qualifying too. But his racing is absolutely superb, as we saw in Monaco last weekend and through the season so far. So I'm confident he'll be there somewhere today.
Now, Michael Schumacher, I'm very interested in this because we think he's gone very aggressive, don't we, on the fuel, perhaps 7 or even 8 laps worth of fuel. And we've seen Ferrari having very poor starts in comparison with Renault and BAR this season. Michael can't afford a compromised start here in this afternoon, can he? Because he's got Rubens Barrichello and also possibly Montoya carrying more fuel. When he comes out from his pit stop, he doesn't want to be anywhere near those guys because they're doing something different today. So he's under pressure, really, isn't he?
He is indeed, not to mention the electric starter truly right behind him on the clean side of the grid too. So Michael, I think, has taken a risk to go short on fuel. I think he'd be kicking himself, actually, because he carried too little fuel into qualifying. I think BAR are confident and probably correct in saying that they forced him into that route.
It's amazing to think Michael Schumacher panicking. Who would have thought it?
Panic and Michael Schumacher. Not often you hear that in the same sentence. Michael Schumacher would confirm the modern Nurburgring doesn't compare to its intimidating 14-mile, 174-corner predecessor. It is still, though, a very challenging racetrack. We will be back, continuing our countdown to the start of the European Grand Prix. Just under 15 minutes to go to the start of the European Grand Prix at the Nurburgring. We go straight to David Coulthard. He's with Louise.
Yeah, David's in a very unusual position as well, right at the back of the grid. Have you ever been this far down before?
No, but I've been in a few unusual positions, but this is not one that I'd like to be in. No, it's actually the first time I've started this far down Formula 1 grid. First time I think I've started at the back since karting when you used to have heats. So it's a bit shocking, I have to say. It's only really sunk in now that I'm this, I can see how far it is to the front.
It's a long stroll back here, isn't it?
It is a very long walk, and obviously I'm used to having Pat Fry say to me, last car in position. Well, he'll be telling me that I'm in position now, and then I guess very quickly afterwards the race will start.
Well, starting from the back, but today's all about getting as close to the front as possible. What have you got up your sleeve to help you get there?
Well, obviously we've adjusted strategy. You can pretty much work out what we've done to try and make sure that we gain positions during the pit stops. And it's just a question of knowing whether you get caught in traffic whilst you're trying to run your strategy.
Traffic was horrendous for everybody in Monaco, but it shouldn't be such a problem here, should it?
Yeah, overtaking is very difficult. Everywhere in Formula 1 could you lose downforce in the corners, so you rely on either having a straight line speed advantage or pretty mega car under braking. I think we have a car that brakes well. Speed-wise, I think we're much on muchness with the guys around about us.
Well, whatever happens, hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.
I guess, Tony, he will be looking for an employer next season, and Mercedes will hope that he does well from the back there in the McLaren.
Well, that's part of his problem this season, because he hasn't had enough track time to show what he can do. He has the prospects of going to Williams, of going to Toyota, but he's not able to demonstrate his enormous talent.
Another man not sure of a contract, very surprising as well, is Jarno Trulli. Won a Grand Prix for the first time in Monte Carlo last Sunday. An absolute thriller it was as well. Jarno Trulli has lost his voice. Even so, he's doing his best to communicate to Ted.
Well, Jarno, I know you've lost your voice, so I'm just going to ask for a nod or a shake. How's it looking? Is it looking good for the race?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a yes. And can you get into the lead, do you think, at the start? Hope so. Okay, good. Do you think you can stay out longer than Michael Schumacher? You don't know. Possible, though.
Ferrari's quick.
You're going to aim for that. Okay, let's carry on. Is the car handling well on a race distance?
Yeah.
Yep. Good stuff. And finally, do you think you can pass anyone at the start? Have a good race, Jarno.
He loves those starts, doesn't he, Tony? And of course, BAR are going to be very much involved in it with Jenson Button as well.
So he truly looks a bit like a ninja turtle, doesn't he, at the moment? Like ponytail, Attila the Hun or something like that. Yeah, Jeff Willis we saw a glimpse of there, and Juan Pablo Montoya. He's been very vocal, very critical about the performance of the Williams BMW here. It has to be said, BMW are also suffering on home turf because they're not as quick even as the Honda now, and certainly the Ferrari are pulverising them. They've got a lot of work to do on their engine as well. There's a big conflab, and we saw Flavio Briatore and David Richards on the left, who were talking to Bernie, in a big conflab this morning about tyres with Pierre Dupasquier, the boss.
And Ferrari here, a lot of Schumi's army are here hoping to see their man deliver, and we can hear from the Ferrari camp now as Niki Lauda gives Michael Schumacher a last-minute pat on the back. Ross Brawn is with Ted.
Yes, indeed, and the entire Ferrari team wearing a black armband here. I don't know if you can see that, Benji, in memory of Umberto Agnelli, of course. It's a nice touch, Ross, but Martin was just talking about Michael. They thought he could go a bit heavier and still have got pole position.
Well, you always know that afterwards.
So he could have done, you think?
Well, of course. I mean, with 6/10 you could have put more fuel in, but you don't know that before the event. But we're happy with the fuel load we have. We'll have to see whether that's crucial. But of course, the lighter you are at the beginning, the faster you are at the beginning of the race. Better start should be. It's a long drag down into the first corner, so theoretically we could have gone heavier, but we'll see.
Is Michael going to have to do a bit of a blocking job on Trulli?
I don't know if you call it blocking, but
defending position, maybe.
Yeah, I think you have to defend his position, I'm sure. But Monaco, we had a particular problem getting the tyres hot because the tactics of the Michelin runners was to do a really slow formation lap to get the tyres cold, where they have an advantage. Here we've got the initiative of the pole. We can run the formation lap at the speed we feel appropriate and keep the tyres hot, so it shouldn't be so bad here.
And just finally, Rubens, you anticipate a similar race to Barcelona?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much, Ross.
Those black armbands in memory of Umberto Agnelli, the Fiat chairman who died last week. Tony Jardine, sum up your pre-race thoughts for us.
Well, I think the start is going to be potentially electric. There's a lot of different tactics going on. We're in the midst of the tyre war, as you know, and it's all about the Bridgestone slow starting. But it's a very consistent tyre during the race. The Michelin, as more rubber went down, have got better.
Michael Schumacher very upset by the way his unbeaten run ended in that tunnel in Monaco. His desire is to re-establish his superiority immediately. Alongside him, Takuma Sato, first Japanese driver ever to start on the front row. Ahead of them, 180-mile-an-hour downhill banzai to the first corner. We have seen scary moments there. The brilliant starters in the mix too. Monaco winner Trulli and Alonso in the Renaults. Fourth, best of the season for Raikkonen. Jenson Button's BAR has the speed. The European Grand Prix is next. Follow that if you can. The Monaco Grand Prix gave the Formula One world a massive boost, and now we hope for a high-quality action replay at the Nurburgring. It's the European Grand Prix on ITV1 with Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Thank you, Jim. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Nurburgring. Well, the Germans really love their racing, and the proof is the legend of the Silver Arrows Grand Prix cars of the 1930s and 50s, and the two awesome tracks they built, the Nurburgring and Hockenheim, which have both been dumbed down but are still on the modern Grand Prix calendar. It's a very proud racing heritage, the German one, and its crown jewel is undoubtedly Michael Schumacher, the most successful driver in the sport's history. But it's a difficult moment for German sport in general, as Schumacher is the country's only world-class sporting superstar at the moment. There are no new Boris Beckers, no new Franz Beckenbauers. Schumacher is it at the moment, and the 100,000 crowd here today at the Nurburgring is certainly wanting to celebrate that fact. On paper, today's race should be a stroll for Schumacher, but there are some risks in the race plan that he's adopted. He needs to pull out a big lead at the start, and if anyone like Sato or Trulli gets in front of him, he's going to have to work for his race victory this afternoon. Now, because Schumacher's Bridgestone tyres are better race tyres than qualifiers, he was forced, we believe, to run a lower fuel yesterday than in qualifying than he would ideally have liked. Now, the Ferrari's other weakness at the moment is its starts, and Schumacher has to ensure that he's in front of the Renaults and the BARs on the opening lap of this Grand Prix. After that, his strategy could be quite compromised if he isn't. But the good news is, for Michael anyway, that this is a track, Martin, on which you can overtake. Several good overtaking places here at the Nürburgring. We all know that Schumacher loves a challenge. Do you think he's going to get one this afternoon?
I certainly think he is for the first few laps. Interesting what Ross said on the grid, that well, we can control the pace of the warm-up lap because the Michelin runners know we hurt with extra cold tyres. He can go as fast as he likes. They don't necessarily have to follow him all the way around. They can certainly slow it down anyway. He is absolutely surrounded by Michelin runners, all of whom I think are going to be very fast today. Sato, Trulli, Raikkonen, Button, Alonso. His next helper, his rear gunner, Barrichello, back in 7th, quite a long way back in the pack, as you can see up in front of you now. So Michael's out there by himself, and we know they're fast stars. We know they've got more grip, certainly for the first half lap. So he's going to have his hands full, I think, James. But theoretically, I think you're absolutely right. He should be able to comfortably win this race once he gets up to normal lapping speeds.
There you can see David Coulthard at the very back of the grid. Did set a time in the first pre-qualifying session, 4th fastest in fact. A very, very good effort from David, but to his intense frustration, he had an engine problem on his in-lap coming back from that qualifying effort, and so wasn't able to take part in the second session. And he's had an engine change, which is why he's at the back of the grid. Be interesting to see what he can do from there, because the McLaren Mercedes with Kimi Raikkonen 4th on the grid this afternoon, certainly in the best shape we've seen them in so far in 2004.
Indeed, I went down, you're looking at the back of Coulthard's car, you sort of imagine a bit of tumbleweed coming through there at some point. It's very lonely and quiet and windy down the back there, but of course we used to start 26 cars regularly, so theoretically it's not that far back, but it just seems an awful long way from the lights down there. Coulthard then will have to be very wary of people not getting off their grid slots or slow away, because as the rear wings flash around in front of you, all of a sudden you come across a stationary car. Scary stuff at the back of the field, especially if you're trying to make haste in the first few corners of the Grand Prix. And Sato we were just looking at, and now Trulli in the Renault. They've got a hard afternoon ahead of them, I think. I can see some seriously good scraps, James, for anywhere to be in the points today. I think you're going to have to fight hard.
It's interesting because it's very evenly matched at the moment between BAR and Renault. The Williams, we believe, are carrying a little bit more fuel, perhaps. Juan Pablo Montoya down the grid in 8th place. Ralf Schumacher, his teammate, 9th. The winner here 12 months ago, if you recall. First of 2 back-to-back Grand Prix that he won, the French being the second. And astonishingly, Ralf Schumacher hasn't stood on a Formula One podium since that French Grand Prix. It's almost an anniversary coming up, and not a nice anniversary at all for Ralf Schumacher. They're not the force at the moment in Grand Prix racing that they were 12 months ago, the BMW Williams team. There we can see the mechanics pulling away. Schumacher, over 200 Grand Prix of experience, just watching his wheel, just locking in there as the gear went in. Sato as well, and off they go on the parade lap. 3.1 mile Nürburgring circuit. It's the bottom loop of the old Nordschleife circuit, which ran over 14 miles, opened back in the late 1920s, and so many great moments from the history of motorsport have taken place on this circuit. The wonderful drive of Juan Fangio in 1957, Jackie Stewart in 1970. Lots of classic moments, and lots of great names have raced here.
Yeah, it's interesting to see Michael's. It shows you how little grip there is as they start to lose temperature in the tyre. The blankets have been off some 30-40 seconds by then. He would have had his left foot on the brake pedal as he selected first gear, so the fronts would be locked. But even so, just that clunk into gear spun his rear tyre, didn't it, by 1/8 of a turn or something, and that's what you get on the start line. These cars only come alive when the downforce comes into play, over 50 miles an hour. They're like aeroplane wings upside down. The aerodynamics are designed instead as to lift the aeroplane in the sky, push the car down into the track, as I told you many times before. But that doesn't really start to work until you get up to a little bit of speed. And of course at 150 to 200 miles an hour it's absolutely massive. But the low grip situation at low speed, as they found out in the tunnel in Monaco just 7 days ago.
Just watching them all from the onboard there of Jarno Trulli. That's Takuma Sato in front and Michael Schumacher in front of him. You can see Schumacher wanting to get on with it, keep the heat in the tyres, as Ross Brawn was telling Ted on the grid. The Bridgestones need to be nice and warm when the right lights go off. The Michelins can work quite well in a colder situation. The track temperature at the moment, 27 degrees. It's dropped 7 degrees in the last half an hour. So a bit of a breeze getting up as well down the main straight. And everything just getting a little bit chillier. And I know it sounds pernickety to talk about tyre temperatures and that sort of thing and how a parade lap being quick or slow would affect it, but really, really does make a big difference. There's an unusual shot. That's Charlie Whiting, the FIA's race director, the man who decides whether or not to have a safety car, who makes all the key decisions related to the running of a Formula One Grand Prix, has for many years. And that's him up on his start gantry.
And he's the man who decides the random time from when all 5 lights come on to when they go off. And we saw Trulli in Barcelona 2 races ago guesstimate when they got it absolutely spot on. I have a feeling Sato was trying the same thing in Monaco last weekend and beat it by 400 milliseconds apparently, which is why he ended up chasing people 2 or 3 rows ahead of him into turn 1. He dropped out of the race before they had time to punish him.
It's interesting, apparently the way Charlie polices it is that the human reaction time is 1/10 of a second. Any faster than that is humanly impossible. So they measure it afterwards and see if the car was moving less than 1/10 of a second after the lights went off. Clearly the driver anticipated it, and that's how they award jump start penalties. I believe Sato would have been given a penalty, in fact, if he'd been able to continue in Monaco, but as we all know, his engine blew up. Looking back for the cars to form up on the grid, David Coulthard will be the last one to form up. What can he do from back there?
Yes, 4 people with change engines at the back of the grid. Everybody in their press office has been scratching their heads, talking to each other this morning like, hey, how do you line those up? There is a procedure, but it's quite complex, and it depends who nominates the time and when they're changing the engine.
Round 7 of the 18-round championship begins now. Cracking start by Sato. Trulli's going well also. Michael Schumacher has to go defensive. He takes the pit lane side. That's chopped Trulli. He can't do anything about it. And Schumacher's kept his position. And look at Sato up the inside of Trulli. He goes very, very deep. Almost hits Schumacher. And Raikkonen looking very racy as well. He's on the outside of Trulli. Those two, and there's Ralf Schumacher gone off. Connected with D'Amato, it looks like.
Yes, they tripped over each other on the outside of turn 1 as Trulli begins to have a look on the inside of Sato out of our view, and Sato ran wide. It's Raikkonen up into second place then. There's Trulli. Sato having a nightmare in turn 3 and 4.
Yeah, looks like the Renault and the BAR got caught up there. Side-by-side action on the opening lap here, and we believe that Juan Montoya has broken his front wing from 8th on the grid, so both Williams drivers in trouble. Here we see from Montoya, look.
Yes, he locked his front wing up, and he was the one that tapped, yes, both Williams into each other then. It's no good putting your hand up, it's your fault, Juan Pablo. He tapped Ralf into the spin, and Ralf then collected the Toyota of D'Amato. So we have Michael Schumacher from Raikkonen, Alonso, Sato, Barrichello, Button, Trulli down in 7th place, Panis clean, and Coulthard from 20th to 10th.
Yeah, I think what happened, Martin, is that Trulli and Sato got together. You saw a big cloud of dust. The two of them sort of went off the track, and the Renault that jumped through was that of Fernando Alonso, now up into 3rd place then, behind the McLaren of Kimi Raikkonen. And what an opening lap for Michael Schumacher, a dream start for him. Williams are ready to replace the nose cone of Juan Pablo Montoya.
He could also have some front suspension damage because he did connect with Ralf wheel to wheel. He might get away with that one. They'll change the nose first. There we go. no other benefits of a pit stop so early. There's no point fueling it really. They will put some in and try to repair some of this damage in terms of track time lost. And the nose, of course, they have to lift the car up with the nose on the front jack. That's disappeared. They have to find another way of getting the nose up in the air. Michael Schumacher free and clear, 2.4 seconds in the lead.
Two guys going to be really ecstatic about the way this race has started. Michael Schumacher, just what he needed. Clear air now. He can put his foot down. What about David Coulthard, though? Up from 20th on the grid to 9th in a single lap. That is a position from which to seriously challenge for points this afternoon.
Yes, it's certainly looking good for McLaren. Second with Raikkonen, 9th now for Coulthard. Montoya pitted, and the lead was at 2.4 seconds. There's Raikkonen comfortably second. Alonso, Sato, Barrichello, Button. Barrichello doing quite nicely on that first lap too. Hopefully we'll see a replay. It looked to me as if as soon as Montoya turned the wheel, so you're asking the front tyres to brake and turn, he just locked the pair of them up and slid into the side of Ralph.
Very scruffy start indeed. Schumacher leads then at the end of lap 2. Raikkonen second. The margin was 2.4 seconds at the end of the first lap. He's added another 1.4 to that. It's almost 4 seconds now between Michael Schumacher and Raikkonen. Alonso third, Sato fourth, fifth Barrichello, sixth Jenson Button, seventh Jarno Trulli, and eighth Olivier Panis. Coulthard still in 9th place. And Button then a loser at the start. He went from 5th down to 6th, and that certainly wasn't in his game plan.
Coulthard will be in good shape. He'll have more fuel on board. They nominated the spare car with a decent fuel level in it to fix that. Renominated the race car. All highly complex yesterday afternoon to make the best of the qualifying regulations. So Coulthard then in very good shape at the moment. Michael Schumacher at the front. He knows he's got to get on with it because we're absolutely sure he's low on fuel. And Michael went to cover his base very well. One move across the track, entirely fair and reasonable behind him. Sato then comes in deep, squeezes Trulli to the outside for second and third. There are the two Williams getting together and the Toyota being bundled out by the hapless Ralph. We're on board now. Look, he turned the wheel and braked, and inevitably he just simply locked the front. And he's going to put his hand up in the air now and blame somebody, but it's all your fault, JPM. You cannot blame that on anybody else. He locked his front wheels. There was a Toyota steaming up the inside of him. Panis, who got away with it nicely. I'd like to see what happened in turn 4, because something went on between Trulli and Sato that damaged them both in terms of track position. Ted is down there.
Toyota are going to be absolutely furious because that's the second race running that Ralf Schumacher has destroyed D'Amater's race. Remember, in Monaco, Williams managed to get D'Amater a drive-through penalty for blocking, and they blocked him himself. So let's see what Gazza will be on the radio, what he'll say about it later.
Gazza, yes, being Mike Gascoigne, technical director of the Toyota team. We're hoping to speak to him throughout the race, talk about race strategy and the way that the race is unfolding live from the pit wall, where Gascoigne calling the race strategies. But what about this, Martin? Look at the pace of Michael Schumacher. His last lap, a 1:29.7. Raikkonen, a 1:32.1. The rest of them all lapping in the 30 high 1-minute 31s. Schumacher is in a different league altogether. You can see Massa slow off the line.
Yeah, you're watching. They're watching Coulthard coming through. That's how he got through. Massa was off the line slowly. So was Webber, and Coulthard dispatched the two Minardis before the end of the grid hatchings. So there you're watching DC in P9 at the moment. Panis ahead of him. So we'll see when they all first stop, but he should be in reasonable shape, as you said, for some points there, James. Whether or not he can get anywhere near a podium, truly they're fighting the Renault very hard indeed.
Well, Coulthard, we expect, will be fat with fuel. That's the obvious thing to do. A two-stop strategy here, 60 laps in total of the Nurburgring. So we expect Coulthard to go quite deep into the race, perhaps 17, 18, 19 laps, certainly more than all the people in front of him. At the moment, he's only 14.5 seconds behind race leader Michael Schumacher. Now, we saw D'Amater crashing out with Ralf Schumacher. He's talking with Louise.
Cristiano, you must be absolutely livid.
Yeah, the worst thing that can happen to you when you come to a race is when you don't race. So basically today I basically didn't race. Didn't exactly understood what happened into Ralph's mind when he just suddenly all of a sharp turned left right into me. So I don't know what happened there.
I think, to be fair, he didn't really have much option because his teammate had pushed him into you. So, but I don't suppose that makes it any better for you.
But that was after he touched. Then he just sharply turned left. He could have kept straight. He wasn't going to hit me. Probably didn't see me.
Thanks, Cristiano.
I think when Cristiano sees that on video, he'll wonder maybe why he didn't just boot it through the gravel trap, because he kind of tripped over the accident almost after he'd finished. So unfortunate for him, not a lot of place to go down there, but there was enough space on the outside of turn 1. I think he'll wonder why he didn't manage to get round the outside of that, but sadly he didn't.
Unfortunate for Ralf Schumacher, once again finding himself in the eye of a controversy. How many races this year has he tangled with other people? Monaco with Alonso, Bahrain with Sato, Malaysia as well, he got tangled up. So clearly a lot of pressure on Ralf Schumacher at the moment from the other drivers. Alonso saying he's a menace to the rest of us drivers, but as Martin said, not entirely at fault in that particular incident. Now Michael Schumacher is scampering away, as we predicted he probably would if he could get clear air. Meanwhile, behind, a terrific scrap between Raikkonen, Alonso, Sato and Barrichello. 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th. There they are, you can see, all absolutely together, with Trulli behind them as well. Jenson Button. Where's Jenson Button? He appears to be dropping back a little bit, Jenson Button, at the moment. There he is. Behind the Ferrari, in front of Jarno Trulli.
Yeah, Button slipped down the field. Button has not crossed the line. So where is Jenson Button? Either that or he didn't. He's not triggered the beam somewhere around the circuit. We've got a replay of the start from over Charlie Whiting's shoulder there, as you see the pack trying to unfold. There's a high-level shot of it, but at the moment, yeah, Button has now shown up on the computer, so a little trigger problem there on his electronics. And there then, 4, 5 abreast, and all getting terribly messy. And there's D'Amato. I think he was just plain unlucky there. And Ralf actually did accelerate away over D'Amato's front tyre. That is what he was unhappy about. That is why he felt Ralf could have avoided also taking him out of the race. Now watch, he's going to brake and now turn the wheel. Boom! The tyres just block up, spins his teammate, brakes both front wings, and Ralf seemed to get on the throttle now and drives over D'Amato's front wheel. D'Amato then, yeah, it wasn't that he hadn't got anywhere to go, it's that he was just waiting for Ralf to get out of the way. That's bad luck for him.
Yeah, very unfortunate for Cristiano D'Amato in the Toyota. His teammate Olivier Panis is currently 8th. We ride on board with Alonso in 3rd place at the moment. And that's the Renault timing stand. Flavio Briatore there, just talking to the Michelin technician. Schumacher leading by 14 seconds now after 6 laps from Kimi Raikkonen. Schumacher lapping almost 3 seconds a lap faster than the people in the pursuing pack. That's a lot about Michael Schumacher. It's a lot about the Bridgestone tyre in the early phase of the Grand Prix. It's a lot about the fuel load that Schumacher is carrying, because if we're right about his race strategy, he's going to be coming in the next 2 or 3 laps.
Yeah, the problem is he's going so fast, James, that the others must be carrying about 100 kilos of fuel more than him, which we know not to be correct. They're being tucked up behind Kimi Raikkonen. Both McLarens with very poor pace at this stage of the Grand Prix. We know from qualifying 1 yesterday, the track did get incredibly slippery after the support races. And the only man who can find any grip out there, almost as if he's on a different day and a different racetrack, is Michael Schumacher. You can see with the direction change of the car, he's got grip. He's doing 1 minute 29s. Everybody else is doing 1 minute 32s.
Do you remember Hungary last year, where Alonso made the break at the start and Mark Webber was 2nd and held everybody up for the opening stint of the Grand Prix? Well, you're seeing a bit of a replay of that here. Michael Schumacher able to drive away then, with Raikkonen holding the cars up behind it. And Mike Gascoigne is joining us from the Toyota timing stand. Mike, it's a dream start for Michael Schumacher, but what do you make of the pace, the 3 seconds a lap slower of Raikkonen than the rest?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's scampering away, and I think that's that, unfortunately. But obviously we're disappointed in the start with Cristiano. He just got caught up in that. But Olivier's struggling a little bit with the pace with the group in front. I think Raikkonen's managing to hold them up for us. But we're just getting ready for the first stops coming up with a couple of laps.
So you've got one car out of the race, Panis up to 8th. Anything you'll change at this stage, or have you just got to stick with it at the moment, Mike?
I think from our point of view, we're going to stick with it. Obviously, the one we're looking at is Coulthard behind us, who's going to be doing 2 stops. So that's the one we've got to try and hold. I think the group behind that isn't a problem for us. It's just we're going to be trying to race David for that last point.
And this is what you do now, is that you tend to just watch the people around you. Will you bother working out what's happening with Michael Schumacher way up front, or is that just wasting energy and time?
I think for us it's not relevant. Obviously we're looking at Raikkonen because he's the one controlling the place at the front for us. and from there down we're seeing what we can do about it, but Michael's long gone.
And quickly, what's your explanation then, Mike, of the 3 seconds a lap difference at the moment between Michael Schumacher and Raikkonen and the rest?
Well, I think Michael looks as though he's getting ready, so he's been light on fuel. I think he really wanted to be on pole, but he's basically broken the back of it.
Thanks very much, Mike. Speak to you later on. Race leader into the pits, as we predicted early on lap 9.
So, a good quick stop then for Michael will get him out somewhere in the middle of the pack. Doesn't look like a particularly quick stop. A lot of fuel going in, away in 8.3. And the pack are going past now, so he will come out in traffic there. You can see it for yourself. That group of cars from Raikkonen down to Trulli, 2nd to 7th, have all got in front of Michael. But that just shows you the incredible pace he had. He's made a pit stop and come out right behind them. He will have a big smile on his face underneath that crash helmet. Behind then, Panis in a lonely 8th, Coulthard are watching 9th.
Yeah, it's worked out very well indeed for Michael Schumacher, and I think Ross Brawn, the Ferrari strategist, has been allowed to put it a bit more perhaps would have otherwise thought. He's put, if that time is right for the pit stop, he's put 22 laps worth of fuel in that car, where a normal 3-stopper at this stage would be putting about 16 laps of fuel into the car. So Ferrari going a longer middle stint than would normally be predicted. And Michael Schumacher can sit now and enjoy it, as all these guys held up by Raikkonen in front of him don't break away from him, and then one by one peel into the pit lane for their stops, and he reassumes the lead.
Well, they'll be mighty pleased to see Raikkonen pit, I think. Although it has to be said, none of the Michelin runners have got any serious pace. Schumacher behind them, fresh tyres, but quite a load of fuel. Will now see for himself just where they're struggling. Whatever, the Michelin tyres are not biting into this racetrack. The pace is very slow. Raikkonen will peel right now at the last moment into that tight pit entry, and this is the chance then for Alonso, Sato, Barrichello and Button and Trulli to get on with it. No, we've got another pitter at the back there. Ted is down there.
Yes, Raikkonen pits. I believe Jarno Trulli is coming into the pits as well. Yes, he is. It's a shame that these two weren't together on track, because then we'd have a nice old rumble amongst the mechanics. No problems with either stop. There we go, Kimi Raikkonen away. A little problem on the right rear with Trulli, but he's also off. Very similar timed stops.
Two people we need to keep an eye on then. Certainly one of them at the moment is Rubens Barrichello. If we're right that he was carrying considerably more fuel than his teammate Michael Schumacher, he starts to come into play now. At the moment, Alonso leads from Sato 2nd and Barrichello in 3rd, with Button 4th for BAR. All 4 of those men have to make a pit stop, but if Barrichello's carrying more fuel, he starts to become a serious factor, as missing the chicane there is David Coulthard.
Coulthard back in 9th place, outbraked himself down in the Vidal, and he'll not be in for a while yet, I suspect. But Alonso leads the race then from Sato. They're both doing fast first sectors. They know this is their chance to leapfrog Raikkonen, who does not have the raw pace to be 2nd in this Grand Prix at the moment. Michael electing there not to hustle that pack. He knows they'll all be in the pits anytime soon. He does not need to trip over one of them, and clearly Alonso will be pitting this lap, and that's going to be nip and tuck. Raikkonen came out into traffic. If Alonso's had a good in-lap, which he has, he could just clear Raikkonen. So it's going to be very, very close, providing he has a good pit stop.
Well, it shows you that there wasn't that much of a fuel difference then between Michael Schumacher and Raikkonen. Oh no, not again. Kimi Raikkonen, another what looks like some sort of failure, possibly of the engine or the transmission. And it looks like yet another retirement for him, as we look at the race leader, as was Fernando Alonso coming into the pits. Also the Toyota there coming into the pits of Olivier Panis. D'Amata out of the Grand Prix, remember. And that's rotten luck for Kimi Raikkonen. Leading the Grand Prix at the moment, though, is Takuma Sato.
So his first lap's leading a race then, surely, for Sato. Panis leaves his pit stop. He was running 6th at the time. A net. And there's Raikkonen out of the car then, looks almost certain to be engine related. Incredible. 1 World Championship point. There it goes, bang, as they head up there to the pit curve at the top of the hill. Raikkonen with a significant problem in the engine department, and out of the Grand Prix it goes. 1 point in 6 races.
7. This is round 7, and it's 5 retirements, 2 Grand Prix finishes, of which 1's yielded a point. Now, I know there's a lot of restructuring going on at McLaren. They're not happy with the way this has been going. A lot of work going on at the engine department. Martin Whitmarsh, who was managing director of the McLaren cars side of things, the racing side, he's taken overall responsibility of both that and the engines as well, and he's going to work very hard to bring this back up to level. And Louise is with Ralf Schumacher.
Cristiano, we've just been chatting to him. He seems a bit aggrieved, felt that you could have avoided him at the end of that incident.
Well, I was just passenger. One ran into the back of mine, into the front of mine. I was just there. What should I do? I mean, you know, I didn't even see Cristiano. Sorry for that, obviously. But, you know, that's he's a victim of the incident. Sorry.
Thanks, Ralph.
It's very easy for us. Jenson Button pitting then from what was fourth. It's very easy from this high level to see that he quite clearly accelerated and drove over a helpless D'Amata. But with these high cockpit sides, they cannot see anything past about 30-degree angle on either side of straight ahead. One of the downsides of the new safety aspects of the head protection, the drivers do not know what's beside them.
Button rejoining then in 6th place, ahead of Heidfeld and Alonso. That's the battle for 7th. Takuma Sato, his teammate at BAR, still leading the Grand Prix, ahead of Rubens Barrichello in the Ferrari, yet to make a stop, either of those two men. And look how the pace has picked up now that Raikkonen's out of the way. 1 minute 30 flat for Takuma Sato. That's the pace of the Michelin, the real pace of the Michelin front runners, but they weren't able to express it in those opening 9 laps because they were being held up by Kimi Raikkonen. There you can see Jenson Button with Christian Klien, and he is in 6th place at the moment, Klien, not having yet made his first pit stop of the afternoon in the Jaguar.
Sato pits then. Sato in the pits, he's been lapping very quickly. Surely he's going to come out in a comfortable 2nd place with Raikkonen out of the Grand Prix anyway. Sato's gone the furthest, been lapping very quickly. If he can get back out without too much traffic, I think he'll be the new clear and comfortable 2nd place man.
Ultimately, I'm sure he will. At the moment, of course, Rubens Barrichello, we don't know how long he's going to go for, do we? He's set his fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far, 1:30.446. He is the race leader at the moment as Sato blends back in front of David Coulthard. That's significant for him because we know that Coulthard's going to run quite a long first stint here. So that's an important milestone pass there for Takuma Sato.
New leader then, Rubens Barrichello, yet to stop. We haven't seen Barrichello, Coulthard, Klien, Button has stopped, Heidfeld, Alonso has stopped too, Webber not stopped yet in the Jaguar, currently 9th. So completely different strategies out there this afternoon.
Certainly are. Well, Rubens Barrichello won here back in 2002 by outpacing Michael Schumacher. As you take another look at Kimi Raikkonen holding his head in his hands in horror. I'm not sure Barrichello's got the pace to beat Schumacher today, but it's going to be a tremendous scrap for the podium positions. He leads at the moment, Schumacher 2nd, Coulthard, Klien and Button chasing at the moment. 46 laps to go in the 60-lap European Grand Prix at the Nurburgring. Nick Heidfeld makes a pit stop. Jordan's strongest performance, really, you'd have to say, so far of the season, although they got some points in the end in Monte Carlo. It was largely through attrition, but here they've been running in 7th place on merit. And just a moment ago, this is Fernando Alonso.
Yes, just failing to turn in to turn 4, running very wide, losing a lot of track time, and crucially, also you'll just see his teammate flashing past his right-hand side. Alonso way down in 11th place at the moment, as we see Rubens Barrichello pitting from the lead. Important moments because now it's a straight fight, as far as I'm concerned, between Barrichello and Sato for 2nd place. Michael's gone into the distance, and we're back with Mike Gascoigne. Mike, we're watching Rubens Barrichello pit. Will you have been down to talk to Williams or Ralf Schumacher about that incident? Somebody from your team?
I don't think it's a good time for anyone from our team to talk to Ralph at the moment, given all the rumours. But no, it's happened and it's over. We're concentrating on the race. So it's just one of those things.
I was saying to the viewers that actually it quite clearly Ralph just drove over Cristiano D'Amata's front wheel, but you can't see anything. You've sat in these cars, you just can't see anything out the side of them.
That's right. I mean, I'm sure Ralph wanted to boot it and try and get through the gravel trap, and he wouldn't have known Cristiano was there, and Cristiano had nowhere to go.
What did you make of Michael Schumacher's first stop there, Mike? He seemed to put a little bit more fuel in than a normal 3-stopper. Do you think they're feeling pretty comfortable at the front?
I think they are, and especially with Barrichello where he is on 2 stops. I mean, obviously people stopping fairly early on 3 stops, all the Michelin runners, and some of them getting caught up in traffic, particularly the Renaults, which I think is going to help Coulthard on 2 stops. For us, we just have to see how it pans out. We're not particularly getting held up behind Massa. We just have to see how it pans out.
Well, you're 12th at the moment, 45 seconds down on the race leader. David Coulthard is 4th place, 24 seconds behind. So it's about 20 seconds, which is roughly what you need to make a stop here. So you think you're going to be pretty close to Coulthard when he makes his stop?
Yeah, we just have to see how the tyre degradation goes out. We're going through a period where the tyres aren't great at the moment. Obviously, DC is very light, so he's got the advantage of running with low fuel. So I think it's going to be a struggle, but yeah, we're on the radio telling him to push.
We'll hopefully talk to you a bit later, Mike.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike Gascoigne, technical director there of the Toyota team. I love talking to people on the pit wall during Grand Prix. You really feel like close to the action, don't you?
Yeah, they've got a lot more data than we have up here. But of course, what Mike Gascoigne was referring to is when I said, "Are you going to speak to Ralph?" He's like, "I'm not sure we can at the moment," because everybody's absolutely certain Ralf Schumacher's signed for Toyota next year. One thing that is going on out there as we watch Clean pit in the Jaguar for his first stop is Coulthard 4th, Button 5th. They're on different strategies, but Jensen now at this stage of the race losing time behind David. David's not going to yield to him. They're 24 seconds away from Michael Schumacher, who's now back in the lead on lap 17. So some tactics going on there.
The other thing we should bring you up to date with, while we were talking to Mike Gascoigne, right at the beginning of that conversation, we saw Rubens Barrichello, coming out from a pit stop and rejoining well behind Takuma Sato. So as we were saying, that's the scrap this afternoon for second place here. Sato still looking for his first ever Formula One podium. And he's currently looking pretty good, you'd have to say. Started second and currently running second, 7.5 seconds ahead of Barrichello. Coulthard 4th, Button 5th, right behind his fellow Brit. Then we've got Mark Webber, who has yet to make a stop in the Jaguar, in 6th place. He had a 1-second penalty added to his time. He knew that before qualifying, and so we feel he put quite a bit of fuel into that car as Montoya locks up. Fisichella 7th at the moment for Sauber and 8th Klein.
Just looking to see if there are some bits and pieces missing from Montoya's Williams, but there are not. I think one of the problems with Parc Ferme and no warm-up is they haven't got the car set up on Saturday afternoon, which clearly Williams hadn't yesterday. There's nothing they can do. They cannot fine-tune. Before this qualifying format and Parc Ferme came into play, teams would adjust their car on race day, knowing all about the wind directions, track temperature, and make significant changes to the cars to enable them to be spot on for the race. Unfortunately, what we're now seeing is if they're out of bed with their setup, they're just miles off the pace, and it's hurting the racing a bit.
Jenson Button we saw there with David Coulthard just wiggling a bit through the corners, obviously not 100% happy with the handling and balance of this McLaren. The new spec McLaren due to run for the first time on Tuesday at Silverstone in the big Silverstone tyre test, and all of McLaren's hopes resting on that car. But Coulthard here with Button behind him, looking racy again as he did at Monte Carlo a week ago rather, and these two the best of friends off the track.
Yep, we're all flying home tonight, so I hope they don't run into each other, otherwise that'll be a very quiet journey home. But this is hurting Jensen's afternoon very badly. On a different strategy to David Coulthard, he's now only able to just match DC's times. He's in the turbulent air, and whatever lap time David does, Jensen's doing, and it means he's just going to fall away from the Sato Barrichello scrap.
Yes, and BAR really want Jenson Button to attack Barrichello, because obviously Barrichello, one of the men that stands between Sato and his first ever podium finish in second place. They'd love to get both of their men up onto the podium, and as you say, Button's attack on Barrichello definitely being compromised at the moment by Coulthard, who's on a different strategy, a two-stop strategy, and yet to make his pit stop though, David Coulthard, so hopefully some relief for Jenson Button at some point in the next 5 or 6 laps as Webber makes a stop from 6th place.
Yes, first stop of the afternoon then, so it's Michael Schumacher from Sato, Barrichello, Coulthard, Button. Webber was 6th. Fisichella will now take that place, although I saw Sauber waiting for a driver too. That was Massa pitting there, you see it now. And Trulli 8th, Alonso 9th. Where have the Renaults gone? Ted is in the pits.
Yeah, I just saw Mark Webber come by as he went to his pit stop. Rear tyres in such a state. Jaguar have been really suffering this weekend with the wear on those rear Michelins.
Yeah, I think they're sliding around a lot on the track, and one thing that wears your tyres out is not corner speeds and the car working well, it's when your tyres are sliding and spinning is when you get the highest wear rate. So I think it just confirms what we can see quite easily from the times and watching the cars on the track. The Michelins are not working at all nicely, although Sato's still up there in second place.
Wow, that was a moment for Montoya, a real moment there, going into turn 6 for Juan Montoya. And he's got Klein in the Jaguar right behind him. They're 12th and 13th at the moment, so well, it's all happening here at the Nurburgring, but not for Michael Schumacher, who looks pretty serene and comfortable, but a terrific nail-biting scrap between Sato, Barrichello, Coulthard and Button for the final podium positions this afternoon. Lap 21 of the European Grand Prix at the Nurburgring. That's your race leader, Michael Schumacher, comfortably out the front, 1 minute 30.6, his last lap. Sato is second, 16 seconds behind him. Rubens Barrichello 10 seconds behind the BAR. And then we've got Jenson Button in 4th place. David Coulthard in the McLaren has made his pit stop finally. He came in just a lap ago. And you can see Michael Schumacher pretty serene. Even in slow motion, he looks pretty comfortable, doesn't he? So we said that Coulthard made his pit stop. Just before he did, this was Jenson Button's attack on him.
Yes, David going to the inside to try to defend the line. Jenson said, OK, I'll just go around the outside then. Fresher tyres, ready to go. DC on his in-lap now. This is his in-lap, but lovely, lovely move there from Jenson Button, and crucial too, because he was falling away from the Sato Barrichello challenge and a podium slot this afternoon. Now Jenson's got to get his head down and really get on with it. He's lapping about the same time as Barrichello, but Sato, his teammate, is faster at this stage of the Grand Prix. Sato pulling away from Barrichello.
You can see Christian Klein missed the chicane there, so we'll have to see if he gained any advantage from that. It's Heidfeld we're watching it from on board. Now, with the Williams team this weekend, Frank Durney, very important senior engineer down there. He's with Louise. Let's see what he can talk about the Montoya-Ralf Schumacher incident.
Yeah, that's right, James. So Frank is with me. First of all, Frank, tell us about that incident at the start.
Well, it's always a bit disappointing when you see your two cars bump into each other. I think the best way of avoiding that sort of thing is to qualify a bit nearer the front.
Fair enough. More recently, we've just seen Juan Pablo. Seems like he's got all sorts of problems staying on the track. What's going on there? Is the car very difficult to drive?
Yeah, well, we obviously, when he had to stop and change the nose, we put a bit more fuel in, so he's wearing his tyres out.
So that's all it is then? Tyres are going?
That's correct, yeah.
Thanks, Frank.
Nice to hear from Frank Durney, the man behind Nelson Piquet's World Championship success back in the 80s with Williams. Went off to various other teams and now reunited with Williams once again. He was one of the key figures that turned around Williams' season last year, particularly where Pablo Montoya is concerned. Now, we were talking with Mike Gascoigne from the pit wall about the battle they were having with Panis and his driver and David Coulthard. We told you that Coulthard made his pit stop. I can tell you that Panis is in front of him critically. So Mike was absolutely right in what he said, and they were able to get his man in front of David Coulthard as the Renault laps the Minardi there. And here comes Montoya from 10th place at the moment. A very anonymous afternoon for Montoya after that incident in the first corner with his own teammate. Yet another tangle between these two ill-matched drivers.
Yes, well, he's out of sync because we saw him pit at the end of lap 1 with a broken nose, broken front wing. They obviously elected to put some fuel in at that stage, so that's why he's out of synchronisation with the rest of the field. Montoya, though, with no apparent pace and very little chance of some points at the moment without retirement. And he's about to be lapped then by Michael Schumacher, so another dismal afternoon. And you really wonder how they can get the setup so wrong.
Well, it's interesting. We've seen Coulthard struggling, big fuel load, but the tyres didn't like it. The Michelin tyres, did they? So Coulthard didn't have the pace. Now, another man that started from the back of the grid and also took advantage of being able to fill the car with fuel, but is running on Bridgestone tyres, is Giancarlo Fisichella in the Sauber. And he's making it work for him at the moment. He's up into 5th place at the moment, the only man in the field yet to make a pit stop. And even when he makes his stop, he will be rejoining somewhere in the region of David Coulthard, probably maybe even slightly in front of him if he can stay out for another lap or two. Not sure what that was all about, but Nigel Stepney there of the Ferrari team receiving some sort of official information on the Ferrari timing stand.
Slow down, I would think it'd be something about what they'd be asking him to do, because he's just waltzing off. 17 seconds in the lead then. Sato still very impressively now in the mid 1 minute 30s. Great drive from him. Button also in the mid 1 minute 30s, so it really is Ferrari, BAR in a class of their own. McLaren with no apparent pace, Montoya with very poor pace, and where have the Renaults gone? 6th and 7th at the moment. They'll head up to 5th and 6th any minute now when Fisichella does finally stop. That is the Toyota of Panis, so he will drop behind Coulthard, Webber and co. And another man just about to be lapped by the world champion.
See what happens.
Well, they're not in the top 10 if they're going to be racing, that's for sure. And but you're absolutely right to say they are really squabbling amongst themselves, but way out of the picture. As Fisichella pits then at the end of lap 24 for him, and he's gone well, and I think that then explains why they're so far back on the grid, James. But even so, they have not got great pace. Will it pay off for him, this unusual strategy?
Well, there's a chance of a point this afternoon. At the moment, Coulthard and Panis are squabbling over P8. This will bring him out very, very close to David Coulthard now. We're going to cut away from that shot, but be very interested to see where Fisichella feeds in relative to David Coulthard. He was 21 seconds ahead of him, which is roughly what you need to make a stop and rejoin in front. So we'll keep an eye on that one for you as we look at the race leader. Yes,
and behind him then, Panis has lost a lot of time finally letting Michael through, having just about run him off the road as he exited the pits. And there is what Ted was talking about. There is the Panis-Montoya fight. Montoya ready to have a go straight away. That's when you got to do it. Catch the other driver unawares. If you settle in behind him, he gets comfortable, you get uncomfortable and slow, and the element of surprise has gone. And this is presumably why Panis lost so much time. He moved right to the outside at the Dunlop hairpin, letting Michael through, and that's what allowed Montoya rather, to come straight at him.
Well, we saw Montoya, didn't we, passing Rubens Barrichello into the first corner at Monaco. He's done another lovely move here, as into the BAR garage comes Jenson Button. Mike Gascoigne's with us again. You're having a good scrap here with Coulthard, aren't you?
Yeah, but unfortunately we bought Olivier's stop forward to counter Montoya. When he came in, he's quicker than us, so we had 4 seconds, but unfortunately having to let Michael past, I think he might have picked up some dirt on the tyres and he's lost the position, so that's not really worked for us.
When I first got into Formula One, Ken Tyrrell used to make me drive 2.5 hours each way from my home to the factory and show me all my ins and out laps, and when I was lapped by another car, and why did you lose that amount of time? Do you know how many tens of thousands of pounds I've got to spend to gain that time back? Mike, will you be talking to Panis to say, hey, you've got to get these out laps better than that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he had 4 seconds on him, although there was Michael there, his tyres are fresh, he ought to be able to defend that position.
Yeah, he's got to find a way to release him without losing so much time himself, but I guess the blue flag rule puts him under pressure to scamper out of the way, doesn't it? So yeah. Now you're fighting Montoya, you think, rather than Coulthard?
Yeah, well, we've lost that place to Montoya, who's passed us, so yeah, we just have to see how it pans out with the tyre degradation. For us, we tend to suffer more with the tyre wear, lack of grip on the car from the aerodynamics, and we struggle for race pace. So I think we're always going to struggle to hold Coulthard and Montoya.
Thanks for talking to us, Mike. Takuma Sato then pits from 2nd place in the Grand Prix. He will have dropped back behind Rubens Barrichello once again. This kind of concertina effect. Sato making 1 stop more than Barrichello this afternoon. He had 11.3 seconds in his pocket critically before he made his 2nd stop. He's going to need to have a lot more than that at the next phase of the Grand Prix if he's going to beat Barrichello when he makes his 3rd stop. Coulthard engine failure from the looks of things, smoke coming out the back, possibly a drive shaft, possibly transmission, and very sensibly parking it near to the marshals.
Dark days for McLaren then, and there you see him coasting around the outside. Again, you'd have to say that's an engine failure, looking at that one, unless it's hydraulic fluid or something leaking out onto that exhaust. Bang. But Ted is down at McLaren with some news.
Oh, bitter disappointment down here. The mechanics, they've worked so hard, these McLaren mechanics. They know they're in a dodgy situation, but they work so hard, just as hard as they ever have done. They throw their helmets down on the ground. If that is engine, then it's McLaren's 3rd engine failure this weekend.
Well, they haven't got speed, but normally when you haven't got speed, you've at least got reliability, and they've got neither at the moment. So even if the new car comes out and is very, very quick in the middle of the season, they've still got to find some reliability from somewhere. So difficult times then.
Yeah, that's the 8th retirement then in 7 Grand Prix. They've made 14 starts between the two cars, and 8 of them have led directly to retirement. So a difficult time for McLaren, but as I say, the new car coming out next week, and a lot of hopes pinned on that. It's a 2-phase attempt to get back onto the front ranks of Formula One. There's Norbert Haug, the boss of Mercedes, a man under considerable pressure at the moment, but they do have a plan, and we'll see over the next few weeks how it's playing out. So Michael Schumacher then leading on lap 28 with Rubens Barrichello in 2nd place. In 3rd place is Takuma Sato, who's made his 2nd stop of the afternoon. We told you that Michael Schumacher put more fuel in than a normal 3-stopper would do, and this is exactly what's happening. This is lap 28 now, and so he's doing a really solid job. That'll be for him, I think, the Ferrari mechanics coming out as Kimi Raikkonen says goodbye to the team. Gianno Trulli is up into 4th place. He has yet to make his 2nd stop of the afternoon. So has Fernando Alonso, who's behind him in 5th. As Michael Schumacher comes in for his 2nd stop.
End of lap 28 then. Schumacher, no need to rush, everything under control. Out comes just about the fueler, a little bit sticky there. Cost him a half second, but he's got more than a half second easily to speak and throw a few more of those away if he wants to. Absolutely easy for him this afternoon. The main fight then is Barrichello and Sato, and the Renaults are sort of in there somewhere. Really expected better pace from them. Button losing out quite heavily when he was in the fight with David Coulthard. Coulthard now out of the Grand Prix. DC says, I've met an awful lot of nice marshals this year. He certainly has. We've seen him pushing the car more than we've seen him driving it, but they're a mighty organisation, McLaren, and you just know they will sort it out. It's a question of when.
Look at this, Montoya through the middle, lapping traffic. He is up behind Klein in the Jaguar. This is a battle for position. Montoya's already lost his front wing once in this Grand Prix and making a recovery. He's absolutely raging, isn't he? This is great stuff from Montoya. Oh, don't cut away from it. Come on, that's it. There we go. Go on, down the inside he goes. Is he going to get through? This is not a conventional passing place, but Montoya is not a respecter of convention. He's having a real go at Christian Klein, and a very, very racy mood today. He's clearly faster. Klein tries to chop him. They come very, very close to touching into the chicane. Montoya has to yield, but he's not going to give up for long. He's going to have a go here as well into the final corner. He's got it this time. Wonderful, dogged racing by Juan Montoya.
Nobody ever showed Juan Pablo Montoya the textbook way to overtake. They're totally unorthodox, absolutely outrageous. Never was he really in the right place at the right time, and still he's made it stick. So good move there from Montoya, and Massa takes a bit of time and passes Klein too, while Klein's on his back foot. So heavily punished then, the young Austrian on that lap.
Well, 12 months ago, Martin, you and I were going bonkers at celebrating Juan Montoya's move on Michael Schumacher. That was a battle for the front positions, for podium positions. And here, 12 months on, he's battling Christian Klein for 10th place. So a bit of a statement, really, of where Williams are this year relative to last year. But the excitement level, just the same.
Yeah, good driving. I mean, he nailed him nicely out of the final chicane. All of the others just seemed to be risking his left front tyre and his wing, as far as I could see, because he was never going to make the move, and there was a great chance Klein was just going to squeeze onto the racing line and push him off the racetrack. Young Klein now, having lost out to Massa 2, has got Panis in his mirrors as Michael Schumacher carelessly continues to lap just about half the field now.
David Coulthard just adjusting his hair, once again riding in a slightly more sedate form of transport, just as he did yesterday in qualifying.
Helmet hair is the official title of it in Formula One. And you're wearing a balaclava and a crash helmet, you get funny lines on your face, but not to mention a dodgy hairdo. Coulthard's car then on the back of the truck, just as it was in qualifying one yesterday.
Nice to see, though, Martin, Klein showing a little of the insolence of youth there. I mean, into the chicane, he wasn't going to let Montoya go around the outside of him. He gave him they came very, very close to touching there, didn't they?
Yes, he covered his line well down there, actually, and made Montoya have to try and go the long way round, but it stuck anyway. So Renault then getting ready for what must be Alonso for his 2nd stop.
Yep, Alonso currently running in 4th place in this Grand Prix, 16 seconds behind the final podium position man, Takuma Sato. who has dropped behind Rubens Barrichello as a result of Sato making the second stop of the afternoon. Barrichello on a different strategy, remember. Those two racing for second place here this afternoon. The two Renaults went a little anonymous, didn't they, after a good start. Alonso was up in third place, but dropped down. Strangely wide in one of the corners, 6.7 on the stop. Nice quick, slick stop from Renault, but it's not been a vintage afternoon for the team that won last week in Monte Carlo.
Could be a vintage afternoon for Takuma Sato. He's made his second stop. He's just 12.4 seconds behind race leader Michael Schumacher, who's also made his second stop. He's running third at the moment, Barrichello in between them. So Sato doing a cracking job through the race. And if he can just find a bit more consistency and grip as the track rubbers in through the Grand Prix, he's got a chance of being certainly splitting the Ferraris this afternoon and keeping Michael Schumacher at least remotely bothered as to where the rest of them are.
Well, given that Sato started second as Heidfeld makes his second stop of the afternoon from 9th place and rejoining in the middle of quite a scrum there, in which the race leader Michael Schumacher is trying to get past Panis. That's a scrap position between Heidfeld and Panis. Panis was in 12th place and Heidfeld has snatched it off him, so Panis seeing a lot of people going past him this afternoon.
Yeah, Michael Schumacher really lunging through there. His car at risk, but I think it's like a half-hearted soccer or rugby tackle. You just get hurt if you're not careful. But a little bit alarming there then for race leader, because he could so easily have got caught up in somebody else's incident.
But a good illustration of the fact that there is only one way with Michael Schumacher, and that is absolutely flat-out attack. He only knows one way, as you say. If you tackle someone half-heartedly in rugby, you break your shoulder. And if you go for a gap half-heartedly in Formula One, you smash your car to smithereens. And Schumacher, the most forceful man out there, year in, year out, over this long and extraordinary career he's had.
16 runners, 4 retirees. Coulthard, apparent engine problem. Raikkonen, almost certain engine problem. Ralf Schumacher tapped by his teammate into a spin in turn 1 and then drives over the front wheel of Cristiano De Mata's Toyota, who was then also immediately eliminated from the race. Michael getting very, very close to those bollards. They've managed to munch bits off them, look, through the Grand Prix, so they don't become a threat to knocking off the front wing. But the suspension, bearings, tyres, all taking a pounding over those curbs and chicanes.
Into the second half of the Grand Prix then, 28 laps of the 60 still remaining. Plenty of overtaking, plenty of action, plenty of incident as well. Collisions involving Ralf Schumacher, Juan Montoya, as you just heard from Martin, and David Coulthard and Kimi Raikkonen both losing their engines. Plenty of passing all the way through the field except the one place, which is at the front. Michael Schumacher has led almost every lap of this Grand Prix, apart from the ones where he was in the pits making a fuel stop. He really has got this race very much under control as David Coulthard comes in to become a spectator yet again, as he was in Monaco last weekend. Schumacher leading, but only by 6.4 at the moment from Barrichello, with Sato right behind the second Ferrari in third place. 26 laps to go in the 60-lap European Grand Prix at the Nurburgring. James Allen and Martin Brundle with you, and delighted to say that the technical director of Toyota, Mike Gascoigne, is joining us once again from the timing wall. Mike, tell us about the Michelins today and how they've been wearing, because it looks as though, certainly on most of the cars, they're not really able to keep the pace.
No, I mean, certainly the degradation's quite high here. We tend to suffer that more than the other cars around us, because we're struggling with grip on the car, and so the tyres, you get a lot more sliding and the tyres go off. But unfortunately for Olivier, he got bottled up behind clean, and in letting Michael pass, he lost the place to Heidfeld. So unfortunately our race has been pretty compromised at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, you're heading backwards at the moment, Mike. What goes on at the factory tomorrow morning after a difficult race like this?
To be honest, nothing really changes. I mean, we've got a programme in place from when I arrived 6 months ago to put things right, and we're doing all the things that will be necessary. It just takes time. What doesn't help, obviously, is motivation. People like to see you picking up points, and everyone watches the race, and obviously it affects people.
Well, Panis now in 13th place. He was battling for 7th and 8th, the final of the points earlier on in the Grand Prix, but Mike, just looking at the battle at the front, we're obviously seeing Barrichello and Sato struggling for battling for second place. How do you see that one playing out? Because they're on two very different strategies, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Barrichello's going to have to stop and come out full of fuel on his two-stop strategy. Sato will be looking to bang in some quick laps. So at the moment, if he can push and react to when, if he can tow up to Barrichello and then push when he comes in and Barrichello's full of fuel, he might have a chance.
OK, well, Mike, thanks for joining us. We'll speak to you a little bit later on. This is lap 36 of 60 here at the Nurburgring. You're just watching Rubens Barrichello in second place, who's lapping Christian Klein, who is in 11th place. Race leader Michael Schumacher has lapped everybody up to Juan Montoya, who's currently 9th. And that'll be quite a significant moment, won't it, when the Ferrari laps the Williams. We've seen him lapping McLarens a few times this year. But fair play to Montoya. It is largely because he knocked his front wing off at the start and lost well over 25 seconds, having to make an unscheduled stop.
Yeah, I need to just add something to that, James, because we did see Montoya being lapped earlier on, just after he'd made his second stop. Subsequent to that, Michael's made a second stop, so Montoya was unlapped at that point. So it will be effectively for the second, but first real time this afternoon, as we see another replay for the Mercedes-Benz people will not want to see, of Coulthard blowing up and walking back. I don't know what Nigel Stepney was looking at. Do you? What's he looking at down in those binoculars?
I don't know. Since he's become so successful and earned so much money, perhaps he's developed a taste for the opera or something and decided to bring some of his accoutrements to the racetrack with him.
Yeah, I know some of the long-distance racing mechanics from Le Mans and all that use some binoculars to watch the girls in the grandstands on the opposite side, but he wasn't looking at the grandstands, in fairness to him.
Yeah, sprint racing's different, isn't it? Don't do that kind of thing. So, Schumacher leading Barrichello, 10.6 the gap between them. They're on the same pace at the moment, lapping in the high sort of 1:30 range. And Michael Schumacher early on in the Grand Prix, because he had to in the first phase, first 8 and 9 laps, banging in laps in the 1:29s, the fastest laps of the Grand Prix so far, and that's a full 3 seconds faster than the fastest race lap we saw last year. So this Ferrari really is very, very quick. Schumacher managing his pace at the moment, but Barrichello has no such luxury. He is in a dogfight with Takuma Sato for second place on the grid. And as Martin and I were saying earlier on in that stand-up, it's such an important day this for Sato, isn't it? Started second on the grid. He needs to show the VAR guys that he can deliver the result from in the finish of the race, where he starts on the grid, not go backwards like he's done before.
Yeah, I think he's put in best part of 37 laps already of that kind of promise. I have to say, done a good job, Sato, this afternoon. And he's certainly in with a great shout of sprinting the Ferraris. That's the main story, I think, in the second part of this Grand Prix. Another good fight between Fisichella and Webber in 7th and 8th, going on 2, as we see Klein pit from 11th.
Seen a lot more of Klein today than we have pretty much in the rest of the season put together. He's found himself in the action zone quite a number of times, and now here we see him making the stop. Young Christian Klein, his first season in Formula 1 racing, just 21 years of age. This just his 7th Grand Prix. He's a little bit slow getting away there, but it's been a reasonable start to a career for Klein. He's yet to finish solidly in the top 10, 10th place finish in Malaysia, but he's had a number of retirements recently, Spain and Monaco, both retirements for him. So a stronger afternoon for him at the moment.
Yeah, he looks like a 12-year-old who's hot-wired a car down the estate, doesn't he? He can't see out of it. He needs to sit a bit higher in that car. You can see him peering over the top of it. He's a tiny lad, but you do sense that he could get himself a little bit further out of that Jaguar.
So when you started that sentence, I thought you were being snobbish about his earring. Then I realised that you were talking about his driving position.
So Schumacher's lead then over Barrichello. Different strategies, 10.2 seconds. Sato continue to do actually quite slow laps at the moment, unfortunately for him. Sato 3rd and 4th, so it's Ferrari 1-2, BAR 3-4, Renault 5-6 at the moment, as Rubens Barrichello spoils that nice 2x2 by pitting.
Yeah, he made his first stop on lap 15, Barrichello, and this is exactly when we predicted he would come in, lap 39. An important stop here for Barrichello. He's lost second place for the moment to Takuma Sato, but he will not need to make another stop for the rest of the afternoon, so he will be going through to the finish. 22 more laps for him, and now the challenge for Sato is to build enough of a margin over Barrichello that he can afford to make his third stop of the afternoon and still rejoin in front. Now this is another man who can play a role here as well. This is Jenson Button, Sato's teammate, and they probably rather hoped that he would come out, that Barrichello would come out behind Button, but certainly they need Button to challenge Barrichello now.
Yeah, bad news for Jenson. It's just what he didn't need there. He had a half a chance of getting in front of Barrichello at this stage of the Grand Prix. But Ted is down in the pits with some more news.
That's right, but absolute elation and relief on the Ferrari timing stand. Their Rubens Barrichello race would have been sunk if Jenson had come out in front of him. So relief for them as Mark Webber pits in the background.
Yes, and it's relief, but it's calculated relief. They know where the cars are going to feed. They've got computer programs and data. They know where they're going to feed back out into the field. So that was crucial for Ferrari, and it all worked out nicely. But one slip on the fuel hose and that all falls apart.
There's Juan Montoya going through in 8th place, the final points position, which he's just inherited from Mark Webber, who's just made that pit stop. You can see the Ferrari there coming through to lap Mark Webber, who was, well, I have to say, quite critical of Jaguar. Michael Schumacher behind him. Webber starting to talk about it's not really good enough, the car, you know, it's not reliability's not really been there. They've not been able to deliver the performance on race day that they've shown in qualifying, and just the beginning of frustration really for Mark Webber starting to creep out. A very professional man who stays very close to his team and feels personally involved in their success, but certainly a lot of rumours in the Formula One paddock suggesting he's on his way to Williams. That announcement could be made sometime this summer as we ride on board with the BAR of Jenson Button here in 4th place at the moment, behind critically Rubens Barrichello.
Barrichello on fresh tyres, but this is why Ferrari were so happy, and BAR will be disappointed. Button cannot interfere with Barrichello's race. Barrichello beginning to edge away from him already, so that's why it was so crucial, as it's really turned into a Ferrari versus BAR afternoon.
Well, we'll look back at the European Grand Prix and be looking forwards to the Canadian Grand Prix, the next round of the World Championship in a couple of weeks' time. Join Matt Smith and the team next Sunday at 2 o'clock here on ITV1 for Speed Sunday. A great show. Also looking forward to the Le Mans 24 Hours, which you'll be able to see here on ITV. Colin McRae will be a guest in the studio, and so will Alan McNish, and pop impresario Simon Cowell, he of the high trousers, and not a bad driver either. He will be shown how to drive a rally car. Well, David Coulthard started at the back of the grid, was going very strongly until his engine failed. He's talking now to Louise.
He is indeed, James. David, started well for you.
Yeah, actually, I have to say I ended up on the end of the first lap where I've been at a lot of the other starts, so maybe it's not so bad starting there, but it's actually my gearbox mechanic, Trevor Laws. I asked all my guys before the race, what do you think, inside or outside? And they voted an inside, so I just took their advice and it worked.
That's what we like to hear. We've just been talking about the fact that your new car is due to hit the road quite soon. That must be a ray of light for you in what's been an otherwise fairly gloomy season.
Yeah, but I think that you recognise this weekend our performance has generally been a lot stronger than what we've seen in previous races. So that gives us some hope, because there's still a couple of small mods that we can do in this car before the new car, or the updated car runs. So we are optimistic that we'll be challenging for podiums before the end of the year.
Thanks, David.
Diano Trulli there in 5th place, just going through to put a lap on the Jaguar of Christian Klein. What do you expect from McLaren, really, Martin? I mean, they've gone to a lot of effort to produce a car mid-season, recognising that the one they've started the season with is not really a very good car. What's your view on what they can achieve in the second half of the year?
Well, clearly it's a team that should be winning Grand Prix. The only thing that concerns you is their last 2 cars haven't worked. So, you know, with all their best data in minds, they haven't got it right, unless they know exactly why they haven't got it right. Why are they suddenly going to transform the car? Well, they seem pretty confident with this new car that's coming out. You would assume that would maybe compromise them also then for next year's car would normally be coming together about now. So it definitely puts them on their back foot. But as David said, they have had a good performance here. Raikkonen was going well. They've got, I think for me, they've got to sort the reliability out as much as this pace.
Yeah, certainly have. A number of retirements now in the first part of this Grand Prix season. There you can see Jenson Button, another strong afternoon for him. He's 40 seconds down on the race leader, but he's only 1.6 seconds behind Rubens Barrichello, and lapping very much on the same pace as Michael doffs a hand.
Yeah, and why he did that was because, as David was talking, you saw Webber came out of the pits and Michael had to give it a big armful of left-hand lock to not run into him. I think Webber didn't realise he was there, so that was why Michael was giving it, hey, what's going on out there?
Well, you can see there the Williams, the sole surviving Williams of Juan Montoya, currently in 8th place, final points position at the moment, making his 3rd stop of the afternoon. A little bit out of sequence, Montoya, because he had to come in at the end of the first lap to replace a nose cone, and they obviously fueled him up at that point. He too using the Michelin tyres, which haven't really had the legs today to be able to go on long stints, but a reasonable stop by the BMW Williams team. That will see him through the final 18 laps of the Grand Prix. And we're very interested now to see what Sato can do relative to Rubens Barrichello. This is the battle then for 2nd place in the Grand Prix. Sato 17 seconds behind Michael Schumacher, but critically he's 19.8 seconds ahead of Rubens Barrichello. By my calculations, he needs to have about 21 or 22 seconds in the pocket to be able to make a stop and rejoin ahead of Rubens Barrichello and deliver that 2nd place finish. Whatever happens, even if he doesn't, looks like he's on for a podium here this afternoon, Takuma Sato, and that would be his first in Formula One racing. But like all racing drivers, he wants to do the best he possibly can, and he's got 2nd in mind.
Alonso pitting then for Renault. He was 6th behind his teammate. Remember, his teammate passed him. He passed his teammate as truly collected Sato early on in the Grand Prix. Then he made a bad error in turn 4, ran wide and lost out. So he's now 8.8 seconds adrift of teammate Jarno Trulli. They're running pretty much line astern in the Grand Prix. So disappointing performance for them today after such a stellar job last weekend in Monaco. Completely different racetrack, of course. And I think they half expected they were going to struggle here. Michael Schumacher then leads by 17.8 seconds, travelling more slowly than Sato, but doesn't really matter at this stage. Sato, the only man on the track that's hooked up on Michelin tyres.
Yeah, absolutely true. Just going back to what you're saying about Renault, though, it's interesting for Alonso, once again being outraced by his teammate Jarno Trulli, who's 9 seconds ahead of him in 5th place at the moment, and he's been out-qualified by him pretty consistently as well this season. It's 5-2 in Trulli's favour in qualifying. So Alonso, the man of the year really last year, falling back in comparison to Jarno Trulli. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do about that. Looking at reasons why Renault aren't so competitive, one of them certainly, possibly, is the fact that they're 12 kilometres an hour slower down the straights than their race leader Michael Schumacher, and that's an awful lot of straight line speed to be giving away, isn't it?
It is indeed. Paris then pitting for the final time this afternoon. He pitted from 11th place, as we've talked with the Toyota team through the day. Not been a glorious day in that respect for them. And this then will be Michael's final stop. Michael Schumacher then, at the end of lap 44, is now pitting.
Yep, he's likely to lose the lead to Takuma Sato, who's just 18 seconds behind him, but it's only a matter of time before Sato has to make his 3rd stop of the afternoon, so it shouldn't affect Schumacher's race too much. In he comes, but Sato really in a scrap with Rubens Barrichello, 21 seconds ahead at the moment, and there is, I believe, Takuma Sato, is it? Coming into the pits. There's the Ferrari leaving the pits at the moment, and speeding out. Yes, it is Sato. So this is a critical moment now in the Grand Prix. Can Sato get 2nd place? He's 21 seconds ahead of Barrichello before he made his stop. We don't know how good his in-lap was, but Ted, how's the pit stop?
Yes, let's see if they have any problems. It was a bit sticky going on the fuel hose. I think Sato surprised his mechanics slightly. That's a good stop. Is it enough?
Yes, here comes Barrichello down the pit straight then. It's going to be very close, but Barrichello holds 2nd place. Sato will hate to see the rear wing of that Ferrari, and now he's got to chase him like crazy. So that is a shame. I really thought he'd done enough to get in front, didn't you? It's difficult to know exactly where he lost out there, but bad news for Sato, but it's race on, game on.
Well, he's going to have to do it on the racetrack now, isn't he, rather than in the pit lane, as Trulli makes his stop from 5th place. Rotten luck for Takuma Sato. 21 seconds the margin, as I was saying, but it wasn't quite enough, so Sato clearly had a slow in-lap. Mike, what did you make of that bit of drama? Mike Gascoigne on the Toyota timing wall. Did you make of that little drama there with Sato and Barrichello?
Yeah, I mean, he was obviously pushing on the laps he had with Barrichello full of fuel and just wasn't close enough. I mean, we bought Olivier in a couple of laps early because he was about to be passed by Barrichello and Button, and we wanted to try and jump clean in the pit stop, and if we lost that time behind the two people who were lapping him, we wouldn't have been able to jump him, so that's worked out all right for us.
Yeah, now I think Sato has got a better pace than Barrichello. I don't know if you agree, Mike, and I think there's no doubt about it. Is that we're just watching, I think, Sato probably letting Button through. Button at a sink, he's some way behind, yet to stop again, but Sato has got a shot at overtaking Rubens, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, really he needs to get up to him in 2 or 3 laps. I mean...
Well, he's going for it now. Side by side they touch. Certainly part of one of the two cars has been knocked off. I wonder whether that's the BAR or the Ferrari, but Sato is through as Button makes his stop.
That was a bit of a reckless move there from Sato. I think he's hurt his car, but we'll have to wait and see whose bits and pieces that was flying off. But it was a bit of a late run down the inside there from Takuma Sato. We've seen him lock a wheel on his outlap. He's just suddenly got a little bit scruffy. And yes, Sato cruising around the outside of the Ford curves. Here we go, too far behind. No wonder it surprised Rubens, because look, just way too far behind. He's broken his front wing, almost certainly damaged his front suspension. That was reckless.
Well, that's always the charge that's been levelled at Takuma Sato, that perhaps he gets a little bit impatient, tenses up a little bit. Today was such an important day for him to show that he has the maturity and the patience to drive through to a podium finish. Doesn't look like he's going to get one now, though, does it? Rubens Barrichello, is his car damaged in all of that, I wonder?
Button will be up into 3rd place then, and Rubens did his best to crank the wheel and get out of there, but that was from such a long way behind that I think your focus would automatically have gone to the apex. There you can see the missing front wing of Takuma Sato.
Well, Mike Gascoigne still with us on the timing wall, I believe. Mike, very briefly, lessons learned from this weekend?
Well, we need a quicker racing car, but I was just about to say, if Sato was going to have a go at Barrichello, he needed to do it in the first couple of laps while his tyres were still fresh. He was obviously aware of that, but just came from too far back.
Listen, thanks so much for talking to us today. It's really lifted the conversation up here in the commentary box. We've really enjoyed talking to you, Mike, and good luck for the rest of the season with the Toyota team.
Thank you, guys.
OK, Sato then changing his front wing. You can see the impacts slightly knocked the bolts there. Ted, you down there?
Yeah, an insult to injury. They were very slow getting the new nose on. Oh, it's all gone wrong. So wrong for Takuma Sato and BAR. Tough luck for them.
Out he goes then to rejoin. He's going to feed back there in front of alongside the Renault. Let's hope these two don't collide. Fernando Alonso, there's the bits of the BAR left from behind that incident. Sato rejoins then in 6th place. Schumacher leading Barrichello at the moment, with Button on for another podium in 3rd place. Lap 49 of 60 here at the Nurburgring European Grand Prix, and that is another Honda engine failure for Takuma Sato. 2 races in a row now then that Sato has had a big blow up. This one not quite as dangerous as the one in Monaco, which caused the Fisichella incident, the accident where he rolled over in the smoke. So once again, Takuma Sato, that's the 3rd time this season, Martin, in 7 races that he's retired with an engine failure. And this Honda engine doesn't seem to like sitting for long in the pits, because just a couple of laps before that, Sato had to have a nose change, having knocked his nose off against Rubens Barrichello in a move that you termed reckless, and it's hard to disagree with that. But once again, that Honda then very sensitive to high temperatures in the pit stop.
If that indeed is the problem, it's possible. It certainly doesn't help, especially when everything is so hot anyway when he comes in. But now it's Button chasing down the Ferraris. He's just 14 seconds adrift to Barrichello. Barrichello won't be able to coast at the current 1:33s that he's doing. And you're watching Barrichello in 2nd place now, because Button is close enough to spoil his day. He's gaining on him 1 to 2 seconds per lap. 11 to go. We're absolutely sure, of course, that Ferrari have just backed off now. As soon as Sato took himself out of the Grand Prix against the side pod of Rubens Barrichello, it released any further pressure on the Ferrari team at that point. But such a shame, and now I'm stuck, because I'd got Sato down as driver of the day by a country mile until he pulled that stroke into turn 1. But you can't just pretend. Yes, you've got to make a move quickly, but you've got to be there first. You can't just pretend. He'll get out of the way when you arrive, because you know, drivers commit to the corner, your focus goes to the apex. You don't stare in your mirrors all the way into a corner just in case somebody comes at you from 30 metres behind. But great drive from Sato though. He'll learn from that, and as I said, he's the only one who hooked up the Michelins today.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? David Richards, you saw there, just patting him and saying, don't worry, you'll have another day. But I wonder what else David Richards will be saying to him. Louise there lurking in the background. Looks like we'll be hearing from Takuma Sato in the near future, and I think he's feeling fairly contrite after that move on Rubens Barrichello. Mike Gascoigne was just saying he had to do it sooner rather than later, and he went for it immediately from a very, very long way back. There, though, Michael Schumacher. Let's look at the pit stops this afternoon. You can see that the Sauber Fisichella did 2 stops here this afternoon, and also Rubens Barrichello. Certainly worked out for him, didn't it? That doing something a little bit different from the other people he was racing. Started 7th on the grid, currently running 2nd, Rubens Barrichello.
It's strange how it's always Takuma Sato's engine that blows up. Maybe he's got a different style, but with the paddle shift, you can't over-rev them, particularly up and down the box, but you can drive them with different levels of style and aggression. But it does seem odd that it's normally Takuma's engine that seems to be throwing bits and pieces out of the side and generally munching itself to bits inside. But, Button, 3rd then at the moment, Trulli 4th, Alonso 8 seconds behind his teammate in 5th. Fisichella in for another look at some points after his upside down movement 7 days ago. He's 6th, Webber 7th. Some points possibly for Jaguar here. Montoya coasting around 8th place.
Another strong afternoon for Jenson Button though. Started 5th on the grid, was down to 7th at the end of the first lap. Now the losers off the start line, but has doggedly fought his way back up into 3rd place and is now lapping about half a second a lap faster than Rubens Barrichello, chasing down the Ferrari in 2nd place. So once again, Button, the man providing the excitement and the action at the end of the Grand Prix, just as he did last week in Monte Carlo, chasing down Jarno Trulli for the win. This time it's Barrichello for the 2nd place, but I'm not sure, with only 9 laps to go, whether he's got the time in which to do it. 12 seconds the margin at the end of the last lap. He's struggling to get past this Minardi, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not had a lucky afternoon, Jenson. Came out behind David Coulthard for 1 stop, behind Barrichello for another. Difficult in traffic, had a bad start, and it's just not fallen into place for him. But it also has to be said that Sato did have a better car set up on the day too. But Jenson's going to come in and be quite thankful for that 3rd place. It's amazing, isn't it? How hard did he try to get a podium, and was so unlucky. So, you know, the harder you work, the luckier you get, and I think he'll take that one, providing he gets there, of course.
Not really a tag you want, is it, the one that Sato's heading for at the moment, the unlucky driver in Formula 1. It's, you want to shake that one off as best you can, but everyone's been through it. Jenson Button went almost 70 Grand Prix before he got his first podium, and then they've fallen like rain ever since. 4 already this season, heading for number 5, podium number 5 in 7 Grand Prix. So Jenson having a terrific season, and I'm sure that all of you who are planning on coming down to the British Grand Prix at Silverstone second weekend in July, all planning to open up your Union Jacks with Button We Love You all over them. Let's have a big cheer for Jenson and for David Coulthard at the British Grand Prix this year, both driving well. Button in particular really flying the flag for Britain in Grand Prix racing at the moment. On lap 52 then, we're looking at Mark Webber. He complained about performance, lack of it in the race at the beginning of the weekend, but the car is going okay in the Grand Prix, and he is driving characteristically well. He's currently in 7th at the plate at the moment, on for 2 World Championship points. 8 to go then here at the Nurburgring. What can Button do about Barrichello in the battle for 2nd place? Lap 55 of the 60-lap European Grand Prix at the Nurburgring. Michael Schumacher leading from Rubens Barrichello, with Jenson Button now just 9 seconds behind the Ferrari in 3rd place. Having a bit of trouble at the moment getting past the Minardis, but Barrichello involved in a tussle with Takuma Sato. Sato, a very optimistic move, dived down the inside and knocked his own front wing off just a few laps ago, and whether Barrichello has any damage, I don't know. I don't think so, but he's lapping a good bit slower at the moment than Jenson Button.
Yeah, another example of Jenson just being unlucky with traffic, and Minardi just not getting out of the way anything like fast enough to be able to really make hay on that lap. He still narrowed the gap to Barrichello by 1/10 of a second, but he had cost him over a second following that Minardi through the last 2 or 3 corners. And he certainly, I was beginning to wonder if Jenson's been told, hey, back off, settle for third, but it doesn't look that way at the moment. He's pushing hard. He still senses that Barrichello is within reach with 6 laps to go, and he was homing in well over a second a lap. This is the leader, Michael Schumacher. What's he about to do? Just fighting the car a little bit in turn 1, nothing more than that.
Yeah, just a few arty shots from the German director, I think. Well, it's not been a classic Grand Prix like Monaco last weekend, but it's had its fair share of moments, some great overtaking manoeuvres, particularly from Juan Pablo Montoya. One rather over-optimistic one into the first corner against his own teammate Ralf Schumacher, very deep on the brakes. Montoya took Ralf Schumacher out of the Grand Prix and Cristiano de Matta, and meant that Montoya had to pit for a new front wing and nose. Schumacher then in the early phase of this Grand Prix able to pull out a big lead. The rest of the pack held up by Kimi Raikkonen in the McLaren, and Michael Schumacher making an early pit stop, an aggressive race strategy here this afternoon for the Ferrari driver, but Raikkonen blowing his engine up after his first pit stop of the afternoon, the first of 2 McLaren engine failures. David Coulthard, starting from the back of the grid here this afternoon, also had an engine failure when he was battling for 8th place. The battle then really was between Takuma Sato and Rubens Barrichello on different strategies. Barrichello on a 2-stopper, Sato on a 3, and Sato in the end had a very, very optimistic lunge on Barrichello, knocked his own front wing off, and then shortly after pitting to replace it, his Honda engine let go, so Sato's podium will have to wait for another day. And after that, it was really a question of whether Jenson Button could get any closer to Rubens Barrichello in 2nd place. Button on target then for his 5th podium of the 2004 season, and Ferrari at the moment on target for 1-2 finish number 4 of this season. Ted, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Ross Brawn there, just checking that everything was okay with Rubens Barrichello. It looks like it is. I'm down at Jaguar though, James. Mark Webber's tyres are holding on just. They're on for 2 points here, which would put them back ahead of Jordan, which is so important for this team.
That's an interesting point, because according to Paddock Legend, if Jaguar in the top 6 at midpoint of the year, he is not free to leave the team. Everybody thinks he's going to go to Williams. Possibly Flavio will try, and his manager, ultimate manager, will try and put him into the Renault. Unusually, Flavio Briatore this week saying Jarno Trulli has not yet done enough to secure his seat at Renault for next year. Whether that's because he wants to keep pressure on Frank Williams with his negotiations over Mark Webber, or whether he just he's got a new contract coming up with Trulli himself. I don't know. It just seemed illogical given how well Jarno Trulli is going, and also Trulli didn't respond in any way at all, almost as if he was in on the action on that particular rumour mill. But Webber then scoring some important and possibly critical points for Jaguar.
Certainly would. Certainly, I believe that Frank Williams would have to dig deep into his pockets to get Webber if that were the case, because for sure there's a lot of wind blowing Webber towards the BMW Williams team for next year. He's definitely their #1 candidate. At the moment, Jaguar have 1 point in the World Championship, and 6th place is McLaren with 5 points. So 2 points today for the Jaguar team would take them up into 8th place ahead of Jordan in the championship, but just 2 tantalising points off 6th, which is where we believe Jaguar need to be if they're going to hold on to Webber for 2005. Michael Schumacher leading then from Rubens Barrichello. Button 3rd, 7 seconds now only the margin between Button and Barrichello. Took another 1.5 seconds off the Brazilian on the last lap, but there's only 3 laps left to go in this race. And I think he's going to need some divine intervention, Jenson Button, if he's going to get 2nd place off Rubens Barrichello. Trulli 4th, Alonso 5th, 6th, Giancarlo Fisichella. What a terrific effort from him. He started in 18th place with a heavy fuel load and Bridgestone tyres that seem to like longer runs here this afternoon. He's really made that strategy work. There is the Sauber timing stand. Peter Sauber there, the team owner. This would be a real shot in the arm for Sauber, who are currently 5th in the World Championship, if they can get some more points here this afternoon for 6th. Mark Webber 7th, as we said, and Montoya at the moment the last of the points position in 8th place.
5 retirees then, 3 of them so I can see ready to go and park firmly outside the window here. Sato and the 2 McLarens have been recovered back into the beginning of the pit lane. Panis still pushing in 11th, lapping the Minardi, and out on the track somewhere down at turn 1 presumably is Ralf Schumacher's Williams and D'Amato's Toyota. They're the 5 that are not running. 3 technical failures and an accident between Ralf Schumacher and D'Amato. Michael Schumacher's lead up to 21.7 seconds now. Button just 5.5 behind Barrichello. Not enough time to do anything about it.
Probably not. We saw a dramatic finish last week at Monaco as Button chased down Trulli for the win. Once again, he's a man in the news, a man making the headlines, Jenson Button. It's a very, very strong season for him with the BAR Honda team. They will rue that mistake of Takuma Sato's that knocked off his front wing and took him out of contention for a podium finish here this afternoon. But what's your conclusion that you draw from that, Martin, from the performance of Sato here this afternoon? I mean, he's shown his compulsive side again by making a rash move for a pass, but a very solid drive before that. What's the headmaster's verdict?
Yeah, I've still got him penciled in as driver of the day, actually, after thinking some more about it. You know, I think he really did put in a great performance. His front row slot yesterday was excellent. The qualifying 1 time of 1 minute 27.6 was just amazing. He's driven very sensibly, apart from one tiny error, as the Sauber of Massa there is lapping the Jaguar. But yeah, I still think it's an important, it's a new threshold for Takuma Sato this weekend.
Incident involving car 15, Christian Klein. He's under investigation by the stewards. That could be for speeding in the pit lane. We saw Giorgio Pantano earlier on, the Jordan team being given a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane on one of his stops. So we'll wait and see from race control exactly what that was all about. Klein in 12th place at the moment as Michael Schumacher goes through to begin his final lap then of the European Grand Prix. A race he has won 4 times in the past. And on home soil, Germany's only Formula One, or Germany's only sporting international superstar, as I was saying earlier on, has certainly delivered exactly what this 100,000 crowd here this afternoon came to see, and that is domination. They love a winner in this country. There's Rubens Barrichello, just making his way through turn 1, and there is Jenson Button behind him. Close, but not close enough for Jenson. It really all started to go wrong yesterday in qualifying. He didn't get the time he wanted or that his car was capable of. Today he's just been in the wrong place at the wrong time with traffic as well, but nevertheless a dogged drive by Button for 3rd.
Truly 4th, Alonso 5th. At the moment the Renault's a minute away from the Ferrari pace. As you said, James, 12 kilometres an hour down on the straights. That's an awful lot of... Somebody runs into you at 12 kilometres per hour, it wouldn't half hurt, and that's just the speed difference between the cars. So Renault then are probably almost going to be relieved at going home with 4th and 5th place. They've not had good speed through the afternoon at all. Michael Schumacher picking his way through the bits and pieces of the bollards at the chicane.
The air horn's waving, Schumacher is waving as well, coming out of the final corner to make it 6 wins from 7 starts in 2004. It's the 4th Ferrari 1-2 of the season. It wasn't always predictable because Takuma Sato certainly gave Barrichello a run for his money, but absolutely no doubt who top dog was here this afternoon. It was Michael Schumacher. There's Barrichello. He came through from 7th on the grid to finish in 2nd place. And there is Jenson Button. He gets his 5th podium of the 2004 season. Welcome back to the Nurburgring, where we've got a Ferrari 1-2, Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello, the 2 top steps of the podium. Jenson Button once again, another strong drive from him in the BAR Honda team. His teammate Takuma Sato gave it a go, was on target to battle for 2nd place, but took himself out of the Grand Prix in a clash with Barrichello, and then an engine failure shortly afterwards put paid to any chance of any points for him. Jarno Trulli and Fernando Alonso. Once again, Trulli on top of Alonso this year. 4th and 5th for the ultra-reliable Renault squad, who are now solidly in 2nd place in the World Championship. BAR in third place, the two battling between them. There's the Drivers' Championship, Martin. I'm just saying, incredible, isn't it? Only 14 points between Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello. Barrichello yet to win a race. Michael's won 6, but that non-finish in Monaco, very, very costly.
Yes, but they're bulletproof, aren't they, in race conditions? Michael had, unusually, a technical problem on Friday, but as ever, it's in the non-important Friday free practice. But also has to be said, the Renaults are pretty bulletproof too, aren't they? Except for Alonso shunting in Monaco. They finished every start of the 14 so far this year. And unfortunately, the manufacturers flicked off quite quickly there. But do you want to run through that one again?
Yeah,
Ferrari.
Ferrari clearly ahead, 106 points, Renault 61, BAR 46. And interestingly, Sauber putting some clear air between themselves and McLaren. 10 points, their 5th place for Sauber, and 5 points in 6th place for the McLaren team. But as I say, new McLaren due to run for the first time next week, as the strong crowd here at the Nurburgring celebrates what it came to see. This man on top of the world with his 6th win from 7 starts. So, either of those two your driver of the day?
No, I think I've already nailed that one, haven't I, with Sato. But what I found interesting about that just now, that encounter, is Michael knew that Rubens had a coming together. He was talking about, hey, who came into the side of you? You know, Michael is completely informed, I'm told, virtually all through the race as to what's going on. He wants to know, hey, when did they pit? How much fuel did they take on board? Even people he's not directly racing against, he's absorbing information over the radio. I am very reliably informed that the others are just not even thinking about, let alone receiving and processing.
And you've always said that's because he saves a big area of his mental capacity for thinking about other things. He's so on top of what he's doing that he can have some mental capacity left over to think about other things, where some people are so on the limit just to drive the car. 100%.
That's right. You know, he needs something like, as with all the great champions I've seen, something around 70%, I reckon, of his capacity to drive the car, and the rest is available to enable him to work out what's going on around him. But I've never met a driver who can absorb so much radio traffic during a Grand Prix and make sense of it while still putting in punishing lap times.
Jean Todt, the boss of the Ferrari team, once again coming to celebrate another victory. Crowd pouring onto the track here in front of us. We're in that low building just to the left of the Red Bridge. It's our commentary position, and fans pouring across the racetrack now, celebrating Michael Schumacher's victory. He's not won as often in Germany as people think, but when he does, it's certainly a special occasion.
Just run through the order again. Michael Schumacher first, Barrichello second, Button third, Trulli Alonso, Fisichella for Sauber 6th, Webber Jaguar 7th, Montoya a rather difficult 8th for Williams, and Massa and Heidfeld ended up 9th and 10th, just 0.3 of a second apart. Good run there, but no points at stake. Panis in the Toyota, we followed his fortunes with Mike Gascoigne through the race, and the Toyota team through this Grand Prix weekend, not one of their most stellar. Clean, a troubled race really, always seemed to be in trouble or getting in people's way, did young Clean. He was 12th, Pantano, Bruni and Baumgartner, both Minardis to the end of the Grand Prix. Good news for them.
Just a replay there of that incident. Schumacher discussing the contact with Barrichello. Barrichello's hand gesture showing that it was pretty close. But, well, Barrichello's lap times went off a little bit afterwards, but he still had enough in hand to fend off Jenson Button. The margin at the end between them, Barrichello 4.5 seconds ahead of Jenson Button. What a terrific day for Button, really. Coming through from 5th on the grid to yet another podium finish. And if he can just nail some of these qualifying issues that he has, a couple of times now he's just not followed through on the pace that he should have. You can see Jenson Button, the win isn't far away, is it? Get the right track, the right day with the right qualifying performance, and Jenson Button will be a winner, just like this man. Low key on the podium, as you can see, a respectful tribute to Umberto Agnelli, who died on Friday. double act, which we always are hearing these days. German and Italian national anthems. Another Ferrari 1-2. And another trophy in the cabinet for Michael Schumacher, his 76th Grand Prix victory. Government support, of course. President of Rhineland there presenting the trophy to him. Government support for this circuit, for the extensive changes they made here. There's Stefano Domenicali on the left, accepting the Constructors' Trophy for Ferrari. Very important man in the Ferrari setup. And there, Rubens Barrichello, yet another podium for him. And quietly, he's having quite a season, is Rubens, without winning any races. That's his 5th podium. Also 5th podium of the year for Jenson Button.
Good effort from Jenson. Traffic will be mentioned in his post-race report from the BAR team, because he was very unlucky through the day. But I don't think he had any more pace than the 3rd place. Ferrari had it, Sato had a chance, blew it, and then the engine failed him.
Well, the F1 bandwagon rolls on. 2 weeks' time we'll be in Montreal, Canada, and a week after that in Indianapolis. But Michael Schumacher is the toast of Germany tonight.
The Lord of the Ring in total control. Schumi's subjects go home satisfied. We will be right back to wind up our coverage of the European Grand Prix. And Michael Schumacher has won the European Grand Prix by an absolute country mile. Ferrari 1-2, Button on the podium again, that's brilliant. Then the very reliable Renaults, Fisichella, 3 points for Sauber. Webber, a couple for Giacomo Montoya, just 1 for Williams. Drivers' Championship, 7 rounds gone, 60 points, Michael Schumacher. Barrichello, 14 adrift. Button a couple ahead of Trulli, then Alonso 5th. Montoya a point behind Alonso now. Ralf Schumacher on 12 and Takuma Sato, very unfortunate day, on 8 points. You rejoin us in the Toyota Hospitality Centre. Toyota, our featured team of the weekend, and thanks to them for looking after us so well. If we look at the start of the race of those Williams drivers, they didn't look after themselves at all, in particular Juan Pablo.
Indeed, I mean, Michael Schumacher got away really well, so did Takuma Sato. But here we are from 8th and 9th, the Williams drivers, and D'Amata in the middle of that in the Toyota as well. Now, just look at this, because Juan Pablo has had a nonsense here before. He hit David Coulthard 2 years ago, but he was turning and locking up at the same time as taking out Ralf Schumacher. And poor D'Amata there on the beach and driven over by Ralf Schumacher as well. So the Toyota didn't even get to race, nor did Ralf.
Run into your teammate, that's unforgivable, isn't it?
No, it's really tough, that one. Very, very tough. And that's all Juan Pablo's fault, unfortunately. But he's made a nonsense of this corner before, and there are 2 lines into it. And it was very, very busy through there.
Takuma Sato got Martin's vote for driver of the day. We're not going to argue with that. He wanted the podium desperately. A bit rash here, though, Tony, was he?
No, I don't believe it. In my book, he was just having a go, just like Alonso did at San Marino a few races ago when he had a go at Ralf Schumacher. He was coming from just behind, and David Richards will have given Takuma Sato instructions. Listen, we're not out here just to settle for points. We've got to go for the places and take the risks. He came in for a used nose cone, then he gets a second engine failure. A shame, but Honda are also going for it, pushing it right to the limit, and poor Takuma Sato, he would have made history there for the Japanese. It's a shame for Mr. Tanaka as well, because they made their debut here in 1964, Ronnie Bucknam, poor old Honda.
Absolutely. Jenson Button on the podium again, and a nice passing manoeuvre to go past. Well, he's flying back home with him tonight. He's got to be his mate, David Coulthard.
Yeah, but he's had a quiet race, hasn't he, Jim, by his standards, really? Quiet in qualifying, quiet during the race, and there he's just showing, I'm looking forward to getting a track where I can do the overtaking. There he proves it. Round the outside as well, just showing how there's 2 lines into that turn 1. And David Coulthard having to give the better there, because his tyres were pretty rough at that time.
The pain continues for the McLarens. When will it ever end, Tony?
Well, I think it's very, very difficult. This is the 5th engine failure during the races after this. And unfortunately, facts are facts, and blowing up in front of us like that, bits of car all over the place, it's very difficult for McLaren to make progress when the weakest link is still the engine. Ilmore have got a lot of work to do. Martin Whitmarsh has been put in there now to take it over, and I'm sure he's going to kick the whole thing into action and get some reliability into those engines.
Let's hope so, Tony Jardine. Thank you very much indeed. So then normal service resumes. A Ferrari 1-2. The ringmaster rules again. That's what you call a reality check. Bye-bye.